3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
From the place where you're not overly ostentatious studios of CBS Sports Radio here in beautiful New York City, sitting on top of the 10th floor, 345 Hudson Street. Welcome on in to a Wednesday edition of the Zach Gelb Show across all of our great local CBS Sports Radio affiliates, Sirius XM, Channel 158, the free Odyssey app, and of course streaming on YouTube. 855-212-4CBS, number to jump on in, 855-212-4227. You could always get at me on Instagram, where I'm straight flexing, or via the good old cesspool of Twitter, at Zach Gelb. That's ZACHGELB. Got Moist Mike producing the extravaganza today, along with Stuart Kovacs back in our CBS Sports Radio studios, rocking and rolling all the way up until 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. We got a loaded guest list today. The president of the Milwaukee Bucks, Peter Feigin, is going to stop on by 20 minutes from now with the NBA season underway. Giannis Antetokounmpo has a new contract. And, of course, Damian Lillard now calls Milwaukee home. And then in the 4 o'clock hour, we will be joined by Jordan Travis, the quarterback at Florida State. And then also former big league slugger and Big Mo Vaughn will stop by, as well as last night we saw the final World Series ticket punched, and it was a surprising one with the Arizona Diamondbacks taking care of business up against the Philadelphia Phillies. And the wild part there is you had the Astros and also the Phillies both be at home with leads, 3-2. All you had to do was win one lousy stinking game at home, and you'd be off to another World Series and a World Series rematch from a year ago. And the Astros choked because of Adolis Garcia. And Philadelphia, in one of the more pathetic performances you'll ever see, they go down last night. And that great home field advantage for the Feigins, where going into games 6 and 7, they were just an astonishing 12-2 at home in their last 2 postseason runs. Well, they lose game 6 and they lose game 7 last night. So the 84-win Arizona Diamondbacks, who had ups and downs all throughout the season, started off hot, then got cold, then got hot, and now are on fire as they're off to the Fall Classic, where they'll go up against the Texas Rangers. And we'll preview that later on in the show and also later on in the week as it does progress right here on CBS Sports Radio. But I got to start you off with a little audio. We'll get to that in just a second, but some news as well. The Cleveland Browns, who have a game this weekend up against the Seattle Seahawks, which is intrigue with both teams. The Cleveland Browns have done a nice job without DeShaun Watson, where that defense has been dominant, led by Myles Garrett, where right now it's a 2-man race for Defensive Player of the Year between TJ Watt and Myles Garrett. They go to Seattle this week, where you have a Seahawks team that they're good. We're trying to figure out if they could take it up a notch and increase what they did from a year ago, where they surprisingly made the playoffs with Geno Smith. 2 weeks ago, you lose to the Cincinnati Bengals, where Geno Smith kept on getting the ball in the red zone, and then Lou Anarumo's defense did stand up for the Cincinnati Bengals. And last week, you got a win up against the Arizona Cardinals, and it was a typical divisional matchup where it wasn't that impressive. It wasn't that pretty for the Seattle Seahawks, but there was never a point in the game where you thought the Seahawks were actually going to lose to the Arizona Cardinals. So the last 3 weeks or so, DeShaun Watson hasn't been on the field. I know there was a bye week as well. You had Dorian Thompson-Robinson start at quarterback. Then they bring in P.J. Walker. And the last 2 weeks, the Cleveland Browns got a victory up against the 49ers and also got a victory up against the Indianapolis Colts, even with some awful and questionable officiating. But I'm not going to hold that against the Cleveland Browns, because the Browns have been on the wrong side of those calls for many years. So now they finally get some of those calls in their favor. But the big thing from that game, from a coverage standpoint, was DeShaun Watson left the game, which what we thought was a head injury. He got evaluated for a concussion. He was cleared to return to play. And before that, he was dealing with a shoulder injury. And DeShaun Watson, even though he was cleared by the medical staff, Kevin Stefanski presented it as he was doing what's in the best interest of the player, and he didn't think it was right to put DeShaun Watson back on the field. So when I was seeing that unfold on Sunday when I'm doing the studio show for Eye on Football, you could take that one of two ways. Number one, you could take it, oh, that's a nice, benevolent act by Kevin Stefanski, where Kevin Stefanski is doing what a lot of people thought the Miami Dolphins should have done last year, with regardless of Tua Tagovailoa getting cleared to return up against the Buffalo Bills, and he did go back on the field, and then we saw what happened a few days later in that Thursday night game. You have a coach that's not just listening to the medical staff, and you have a coach in saying, I don't like the way DeShaun Watson's looking, so I'm not going to put him back and allow harm or further harm happen to his body. Or you could have interpreted that by saying, even though he's cleared, I would say the relationship between Stefanski and Watson hasn't got off to the best start. You had P.J. Walker, even though he wasn't the reason why the Browns beat the San Francisco 49ers, he's now back in. Maybe he thought P.J. Walker gave the Browns a better chance to win. So that's the two ways that I viewed that situation. And let me be clear, I viewed it more so of the first part of what I said was this was Kevin Stefanski looking out for the best interest of Deshaun Watson. Now, I didn't even contemplate this, but I respect Brady Quinn, and Brady Quinn on his Fox Sports radio show questioned Deshaun Watson's motivation. Listen up.
Everyone else with a medical opinion just clears him pretty much. I mean, it's like, well, you get a kid who gets a trust fund, right? $230 million. Then he's like, hey, you want to go out and get a job? He's like, not really.
No.
I've got $230 million coming. I'm good. That's what it kind of feels like. Like it's human nature, by the way, too. If you want the lotto, like you'd probably be like, yeah, I'm good. I'm probably not gonna do this anymore, right?
And you hear that, and you say, can I automatically dismiss it? And I can't. Now, it may be speculation that may end up being wrong, but there is a difference in being injured and then also being hurt. And Deshaun Watson was cleared to return from what we thought was sustaining a head injury. So if he's not back on the field, why is that? And there may be some plausibility there in what Brady Quinn is saying is maybe Deshaun Watson just didn't want to go back into the game. And Kevin Stefanski knows, well, I can't get this relationship with Deshaun Watson maybe any rockier than what it already is, where it's ambiguous. Because if I have Deshaun Watson turn against me, regardless of what I do this year, we all know Deshaun Watson has the power in the Cleveland Browns organization because they just gave up a king's ransom to get him in horrible circumstances. And then they also gave him a fully guaranteed contract. So that was the news yesterday without knowing if Deshaun Watson was going to play this weekend. And the thing that doesn't add up to me is, okay, he gets cleared to return from what we thought was a head injury. And now he was starting last week and the shoulder was good enough to start. But now this week he's listed as out. And it's not because they misdiagnosed him with the head injury and now they found out that he had a concussion. The Browns are saying that this is the shoulder injury. So did the shoulder injury get worse from Sunday to now? I don't think so. Now, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a medical expert. But it doesn't add up to me where he was good enough to start last week. Then we thought he suffered a head injury. He was cleared to return for that head injury. And now the shoulder is the reason why he's already ruled out for Sunday, and they're going back to P.J. Walker. Here's the bottom line when I look at the Cleveland Browns, and I used to be a big Deshaun Watson fan. I used to call Deshaun Watson a top 7 quarterback in the NFL. This guy hasn't been good in a long time. This guy hasn't been on the field consistently in a long time. The last time we saw him at a really damn good level was 2020. And I know the team only won 4 games, but that team was garbage. And he was putting up these big-time numbers. That was the last time we've seen Deshaun Watson play at a high level where he looked like a franchise quarterback. And when you go through 2021, you don't play. Last year, you're out with the suspension. And now you're in and out of the lineup. I have no choice but to say, I don't think Deshaun Watson turns his career around and ends up being this great quarterback that we once thought he could be, and he once showed he could be. And the more and more this goes on, the more and more of a mistake it looks like with the Cleveland Browns committing all that money to Deshaun Watson and giving up all those picks to do so. And whenever Deshaun is cleared and returning back to the play of field, there's enormous pressure. Because even though they're not winning these games solely because of P.J. Walker, I acknowledge it's more so because of Myles Garrett. But last week it was a high-scoring game, but Garrett was ridiculous on the field with the 2 forced fumbles, the 2 sacks, and the blocked field goal. The Browns are in a good position right now where they've won these games with Watson out. And this only intensifies the pressure on Watson when he comes back to right away get into the form that we thought he could be when the Browns did trade for him. So I look at Deshaun Watson, and I just don't expect him to be a franchise quarterback again in the NFL. And there's a few guys right now that are being asked to be the franchise quarterback of their team, and I just don't believe that they will be. Like Jimmy G with the Raiders. You move on from Derek Carr, who I don't love. Jimmy G's in and out of the lineup, always hurt, and at best, he's an average quarterback. Jimmy G's not the long-term guy for the Las Vegas Raiders. Sorry, Stu. Russell Wilson, There was a report in the Washington Post from Jason La Canfora that the Broncos not only made it obvious they're open for business, but that at least one NFL general manager claims that Sean Payton would trade quarterback Russell Wilson if only there was a market for his services. Russell Wilson, very similarly, I know different circumstances, but he wound up on a new team, got a new contract. They gave up a lot for him. And we all know Russell Wilson, he's cooked. He's not going to be the long-term guy there in Denver. They're either going to move on from him this offseason or they're going to go through one more year of Russell Wilson out of Mile High just because of the contract. A guy like Dak Prescott, a very good quarterback, but not great, not elite, and there's limitations. And we've seen those limitations the last 2 years up against an elite defense in the San Francisco 49ers, where both those games were winnable. The ball is in the hand of Dak Prescott late, and he doesn't get the job done. You know, Kirk Cousins is in the final year of his deal with Minnesota. I think Kirk Cousins is a solid quarterback, a good quarterback, better than what people give him credit for. But we've seen the Kirk Cousins story over and over and over again, and he's just not a guy that you look at and say, okay, he's winning a Super Bowl in the NFL. Kyler Murray, when he comes back and when he plays for the Arizona Cardinals, that time and that clock is ticking. Because if you don't prove, even with what your contract says right now, if you don't prove to this new regime that you could be the guy, and they have 2 potentially good draft picks this year, where even if the Cardinals end up being a little bit better than what we thought they were going to be, and they have the Texans pick as well, and the Texans look like they're a solid team, you could package both those first-round picks to move up in the draft. And I don't think Kyler Murray is that dude. I think he's a very talented quarterback, but I don't think he's great. You look at a guy like Mac Jones. Mac Jones' days are numbered in New England. He was a first-round draft pick, top 15 draft pick, was asked to be the guy. I know we can make all the excuses. Doesn't have the talent. Had a nice win last weekend, but when the highlight the last few years is one little playoff appearance and celebrating up against the Dolphins or up against the Bills last week after you threw a touchdown to Mike Gesicki, there's not enough moments there. So we're all searching for franchise quarterbacks in the NFL. A lot of guys get anointed being the franchise guy or the hope to be a franchise guy. Right now, there's like 7 or 8 guys in the NFL that you feel really confident about are franchise guys. But guys like Mac Jones, Jimmy G, DeShaun Watson, Russell Wilson, Dak Prescott, Kirk Cousins, Kyler Murray, we've seen enough to know that they're not the answer with the current situation that they're in. And the tough question is, when do those organizations move on, and how much longer do they allow these problems to occur until you realize you got to go down a different road and travel down a different avenue to try to do something else to get those teams over the hump? It is the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. We'll take a break. I love the story of the Milwaukee Bucks. Won a championship a few years ago. Then there were thoughts this offseason, maybe Giannis isn't going to stick around long term. Giannis challenged the organization, small market too. They went out, they got Damian Lillard, and now Giannis Antetokounmpo says, I'll sign long-term with the Milwaukee Bucks. The Bucks are about to open up their season, and the president of the Milwaukee Bucks, Peter Feigin, joins the Zach Gelb Show when we return after these short messages.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Now back to the Zach Gelb Show.
All righty, what's happening? It is the Zach Gelb Show, coast to coast on CBS Sports Radio. We go out to the guest line right now and welcome in the president of the Milwaukee Bucks. High expectations this year for Milwaukee after winning an NBA championship a few years ago, because not only does Giannis Antetokounmpo have a new contract, they also get Damian Lillard, so we all can't wait for that duo to see how it plays out this season for the Bucks. They open up their season tomorrow evening up against the Philadelphia 76ers. And now joining us is a good friend to the show. He's the president of the Milwaukee Bucks, and that, of course, is Peter Feigin. Peter, appreciate the time as always. How you been?
Always, Zach. Always the most positive person in the media. I know the text is going to hit when something hits, which is always beyond appreciated.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. I know there's a lot of other teams that will not say I'm the most positive person in the media, but you guys do it right. And in a small market, there sometimes are things that could prevent you guys from getting to where you want to go. But you guys have now kind of been the modeled standard in a smaller market on how to get this thing not only humming, but humming consistently.
Yeah, I think in getting it done and having the vision, and like our owners and John Horst, who is just hit for the cycle, over the last few years, and kind of putting this puzzle together has just been incredible. But you're right. I mean, the challenge of the small market is to really be focused and kind of like work twice as hard to get these types of things done.
So, a lot of people in the national media, they always try to get Giannis Antetokounmpo off your team to like New York, to a market like Miami as well, or LA or Golden State, whatever it is, to win with Giannis and then also get him to continue signing with you guys. Just what does that mean to you personally?
Yeah, it's so much deeper. I hate to get mushy or cliche, but it's so much more than basketball. If anybody gets to know this guy, I mean, we've all grown up together now for a long time here, and he's part of the fabric and the leader on the court. And, we're all in this small market. It's very transparent. We're all very much a part of each other's lives. His kids have started to grow up with us, his mother, his brothers, and he is exactly who you think he is, the most loyal, transparent, funny, smart guy, and by the way, probably the best basketball player in the world on top of it. So it's a testament to the organization, to him, to the city. I mean, it's one of these feathers in the cap that you can't even define how important and what the magnitude of it is.
And you know me, I thought for a while he was going to stay. This offseason, I was a little bit worried, if I'm being transparent. Even though he said a lot of things that he said this year in the past, it just felt different a little bit this time around with how last season ended. To finally put this all to rest, to get Damian Lillard, to get Giannis to re-sign with you guys again. When that deal was finally done and you got the okay from Giannis and you guys had the back and forth, just what went through your head right away?
Well, right away, he said, "I've got news for you. It's done." You walked out of the room and he said, you're terminated. And I laughed. I mean, Zach, it's so interesting because it's so immediate. And by the way, 10 days prior, you're talking about the Dame effect and kind of trading, again, for one of the top 5-10 players in the league, that these are moments that effectuate the future of a franchise. We can think of our business, 2 to 4 years out, which you really couldn't do. I tell everybody before this happened, hey, if Giannis is on the court, we're a championship caliber team. We're a global team. We are in the mix. We're a small market that acts and performs like a large market, and then you combine, Damian Lillard on top of that, as well as the rest of the offseason. What gets kind of brushed away is, we extended Chris Middleton, Brooke re-signed with us. We kind of have a great deep, bench. So the fact that these owners have really committed to literally doing what they said they would do, is putting a championship team on the court, is kind of an incredible opportunity for us as an organization over a longer period of time, to think beyond season by season.
Bucks president Peter Feigin here with us. With the message that Giannis sent you guys through the media, maybe behind the scenes this offseason, did you guys really feel that pressure internally where you said, okay, this could be it with the Giannis era if we don't go get him another big-time player?
No, I think we always feel the pressure. Listen, you go through the ebbs and flows of what the age of your roster is, what the terms are, how do you keep health, how do you keep really competitive? I think he knows we've been through it. I mean, the interesting thing about Giannis is he has never gone away from the fact that he wants to be on a winning team and he wants to be somewhere where he can compete for a championship. And he's always said that in a big way to get it done. So I think he knows. I mean, I think it's the nice pressure on both sides of the partnership to say, let's test each other. And we're real. We are going to compete. We are going to spend the money. We are going to go for the best talent in the league, and we're not going to compromise.
So take me behind the scenes, because from afar, I thought for sure Damian Lillard was going to wind up with the Miami Heat. And then out of nowhere, we get that breaking news alert. Whoa, Damian Lillard's getting traded to Milwaukee. And that was something that people suggested, but no one ever thought it was going to happen. So how'd this all go down behind the scenes?
I think it's pretty simple. I think, several weeks prior to it happening, John called Joe, called Portland and said, "Hey, just by the way, we're interested. Like, we don't know where you are in the process. It's like the simple deal call. Make sure you keep hooks in the water, to get it in." And lo and behold, I think as Portland was kind of navigating like where opportunities were, they gave us a call, and literally, I would say, kind of in earnest, like probably 3 intense days of really discussing kind of what the opportunities beyond the cone of silence, because you can't imagine, for us, like there were so many elements of it, of the importance of confidentiality and secrecy, because we didn't want it to hit the market. We didn't want to go public and have to deal with the other teams he might be, vying for to play on, and kind of deal with that. And we also like have a real sensitivity to like our team members and our assets, whether it's Drew, whether it's Grayson, in the trade as well. So I would say we kind of all went to bed the night before the trade, and thought we had like a deal on hand, and we were all in a good spot. And to Portland's credit, really kind of like the cadence, the transparency, the incredible like dealing with John and Portland's GM just really kind of like stuck it through and like made it happen. And I mean, I won't lie to you. I think John and I hugged. We've been lucky to hug every few months, like in a real earnest way, with like this kind of relief. And that was probably that was second only to the championship hug. But that was a pretty long hug of like, wow, that was an event.
How did you guys tell Giannis, by the way?
I think we're always like pretty punctual. I mean, we told him like right away. I think Giannis like immediate feeling like everybody. I don't think there's somebody who probably had more of a deep connection on a human basis, whether it's basketball or off the court, than Drew Holiday and his wife, like Lauren, for us in this community and like citizenship. So I think first and foremost, like it was the thought of kind of that transition in the relationship, and then kind of like, I think Giannis was kind of a little bit like we all were wowed at, we just got either the best, second or third best offensive player in the NBA to come to the Milwaukee Bucks.
We've seen different eras in the NBA. As the president of the Milwaukee Bucks, Peter Feigin, is here with us. We've seen dynamic duos. We've seen super teams. We've seen big threes. You guys have a big three with Giannis Antetokounmpo, with Dame Lillard, and also Chris Middleton. What excites you the most when you guys get ready to tip off this season about what your big three can do this year?
Yeah, I think I think on the surface we can play a different brand of basketball. Like, it's no shock that Damian Lillard can spread out a defense, to levels like a Steph Curry. That's a big change. I think it might be the first time in Chris's career he won't be double teamed every play, and might get some open shots to get through. And I think I'm most excited to see famous throughout the eras kind of a pick and roll team of Dame and Giannis, which I think as they go through time and kind of perfected it, close to, if not impossible, to stop. If it really gets perfected in that type of pick and roll with two guys that can do so much, so athletic, so accomplished, like offensively. So it's kind of mind-blowing what the potential is.
Did it pain you to see Drew Holiday wind up with the Boston Celtics now?
Yeah, I've been around for a while, so I've had separations. I've said goodbye to friends, from summer camp. I've graduated from high school and said goodbye to kids I grew up with, and I've moved away. I've had these emotional kind of things, and I think Drew's chapter is right up there for a lot of us, in that this is a guy that is like unconditionally loved and respected, and just just an incredible, like, it's so funny when he explained to me, like, Milwaukee almost like revived my career and my love of basketball. And I think, he's shortchanging himself. Like, he did that for a lot of us. Like, we got the passion back, to have, like, he was an infusion of such positive additive substance to us. Like, we could never measure it. I mean, he's that great a guy.
I know you guys also said goodbye to Coach Bud and how close you guys have been. We talked about that throughout the years. Now you have a new basketball coach in Adrian Griffin. Just what does he bring to the team? I know we haven't been able to really see any games that count yet with the season just starting, but what has kind of impressed you so far with Adrian Griffin?
Yeah, I think you'll see a whole new energy, like on the sideline, but on the court, and kind of where we are, defensively, how we move our offense, like at a much faster level. I think it's a different moving, adjusting, type of play. I think he's feeling out, like a lot of us, on kind of what a head coach is to an assistant coach, which is like a pretty incredible evolution. But Adrian's the first time he's a head coach, but he's a veteran. He's been around 4 or 5 of the greatest NBA coaches that have existed in this era. He's been a top assistant. He certainly has, like in a short period of time, the love and the respect of the team, which is, very cool to see matriculate.
What's your side, Peter Feigin, on why Terry Stotts walked away from the coaching staff and resigned?
Yeah, well, I have the business side. The basketball side's always interesting. And I think there's the human side. Like, I think this wasn't the right fit. If you asked, like, this was like, and it couldn't be better, right? Like, you always hope that if it's not right, to quickly, like, make the decision and understand it kind of quickly. So I'm glad, on both sides, like, if this was not a great fit, we kind of figured it out early. And I think, Terry is like one of the renowned, loved, intelligent, great guys who was around, and it probably just, wasn't a good fit, for where he is and what he was thinking about. And, it allows us, really gives us the kind of flexibility to move on, kind of quickly and not drag it through the season.
Is this championship or bust for you guys this year? Because you guys have a team that it would be a disappointment if you don't hold that Larry O'Brien trophy up at the end of the season.
Yeah, I mean, we were just talking internally about the pressure. I mean, this is like, I think you always want to be here. Like, you want to be a championship caliber team, but that means, like, you're out to win the championship. So, like, if you don't think we went into, a deep clinical depression when we got knocked out of the first round of the playoffs, like last year, like, that's devastating. That's way below expectations, and for us, it's so fragile. These windows are so, kind of narrow to go through, but we've got to get to the finals, and we've got to win a championship.
Last thing I'll ask you, just from a league standpoint, I know they made a minimum of how many games you have to play this year for awards and all that stuff. We've talked about this before as the president of the Bucks, Peter Feigin, joins us about the load management issue. Do you think this will really solve it, or is it still going to be, hey, if the star player doesn't want to play, he's still not going to play, and there's going to be an issue with load management in the NBA?
I think it's a step forward. I think it'll be a movement to start to fix it. I think you will see there will not be casual do not plays like in the league. I think, like, they'll really take a look at load and stress and injury, in a much different way. I think they did a great job with kind of the punitive issues to get it. So I think it's directionally, and again, another kudos to Adam, in kind of having the vision of, like, here is, like, one of our soft spots. Like, how do we look to improve that? And, it's no secret that NBA fans want to see, NBA superstars play. It's why they tune in. It's why they buy tickets. It's what they do. So I think it's a great step forward.
Well, I'm craving some carnivore. I'm craving some fourth base and a little Fiserv Forum. So text me on the side when everyone's going to play, and I'll make it out to Milwaukee again this year.
I love it, Zach. Go Bucks!
Appreciate it. There he is, Peter Feigin, the president of the Bucks, joining us right here on CBS Sports Radio. We'll come on back with a little news brief. First, though, the latest CBS Sports Radio update with the Act Man, Rich Ackerman.
CBS Sports Radio. Sports Flag.
And it's sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Insurance for motorcycles, boats, and RVs for protection on the road and on the water. See how much you could save at 1-800-PROGRESSIVE and Progressive.com. 3 quarterbacks went in the first 4 picks in last year's draft, and then Will Levis had to wait until the second round to hear his name called. The Titans reportedly preparing Levis for his first NFL start this weekend, with Ryan Tannehill out with an ankle injury. Another rookie quarterback, Anthony Richardson, underwent season-ending shoulder surgery, while DeShaun Watson's injured shoulder kept him out of practice today. And free agent Frank Clark reportedly set to sign with the Seattle Seahawks. The NBA season is underway with 2 games last night and 12 more tonight. The Miami Heat lost in the finals for the second time in 4 years. They begin their quest for that elusive ring tonight when they take on the Pistons, while the Celtics, who lost in the second round, or I should say the conference finals, open up against the Knicks in New York. And the Spurs host the Mavericks, unveiling their new star, top pick overall, Victor Wembanyama. Brewers manager Craig Counsell is reportedly interviewing with the Mets regarding their managerial vacancy today. I'm Rich Ackerman.
CBS Sports Radio is everywhere, Perloff, at home, in your car, and, of course, on your phone and tablet.
Maggie, you can find us on your local affiliate, Sirius XM Channel 158, or the free Odyssey app.
CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. 30 seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio.
Sean Payton may be the biggest buffoon in the NFL right now. Because Sean Payton this offseason, he went after Nathaniel Hackett. And he said Nathaniel Hackett did one of the worst coaching jobs in the history of the league. When you say that, it's a must-win when you go up against Nathaniel Hackett's offense. The Jets won the game up against the Denver Broncos, and that is as bad of a look as humanly possible for Sean Payton.
This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
It's time to Ask the Pros, where you, the listener, gets to ask us a question brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Simply tweet your question at CBS Sports Radio or at Zach Gelb, ZACHGELB, using the hashtag Ask the Pros. Be listening later in the show when we might answer your question. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Let's get to a news brief.
Time for your daily news brief. We get you caught up on the rumors, reports, and reconnaissance from the day in sports.
We start things off with the Pat McAfee Show, who had their weekly chat with Ayahuasca Aaron, and Aaron Rodgers commented on his Achilles rehab.
I'm not walking without a limp yet, but I don't quite have the strength in my calf to be able to walk without a limp yet. You know, I have to have some perspective here because I'm not on a normal protocol. However, I'm competitive, and I want to be walking without a limp, so there's some frustration when you're not quite all the way there yet.
So, Samter, I'll just ask you this, because even though you've given up on your Jets fandom, I still think emotionally you still pull for the team, even if you do so in a very quiet manner. Aaron Rodgers on the field 2 weeks ago, throwing the football in warm-ups, and I said I think that was all for show, to kind of put on this front, okay, there's a chance that I'm coming back. But then I wondered what he was like behind the scenes. And when you admit you are limping still when you walk, is that the most intelligent idea then in the world, to be throwing the football and having catch on the football field right before the game?
And to add insult to injury, literally, he also told Eli Manning, since the Jets are playing the Giants, that they want to have a catch on the field before the game this weekend.
Oh, is that right?
And Eli agreed. So, I mean, he's all in. Having a catch where you're stationary, and yes, you're pushing off a little bit. He did talk a lot about how it's not the plant foot, it's not the push off foot, it's the plant foot, which it requires less actual movement and less actual strain on the Achilles. So I trust that he's doing what is smart. I trust that he knows what he's doing. Having a catch is fine. If I see him running sprints out there, then I'll have another issue. Walking with a limp and throwing from a stationary position, that's fine.
Yeah, if he starts acting like Robert Saleh before the games and running up and down the bleachers, that would be a problem. Here is Mike Vrabel. We know Ryan Tannehill is out. He says Will Levis and Malik Willis will both play.
Ryan will practice today, and we'll see where he is at the end of the week. And I would imagine that if Ryan can't play, I would anticipate both of those quarterbacks playing in a football game.
So Will Levis is going to start, and then they'll put Malik Willis, I guess, in on certain packages. I'm always leery when a coach says that both quarterbacks are going to play. And Will Levis was drafted in the second round. Malik Willis was drafted in the third round. Both were thought to be first-round picks. Both did not go in the first round. I think you're going to see a heavy dose of Will Levis this weekend up against the Atlanta Falcons. So the Arizona Diamondbacks down 3-2 in the series, going back to Philadelphia, where the Feigins in the last 2 years were 12-2 at home in the postseason. Now they are 12-4 because the D-backs win games 6 and 7. And Christopher Mad Dog Russo, earlier in the week, just like myself, said there's no way the Phillies are going to drop both of these games at home. I didn't say, though, that I was going to retire if that did happen. Well, Christopher Mad Dog Russo did, and here are the Diamondbacks after the game chanting about Christopher Mad Dog Russo. Mad Dog, Mad Dog, Mad Dog, Mad Dog, Mad Dog, Mad Dog. Retire loser. Now, Samter, I'll run this by you. That was a really weak chant. That was like a minor league sounding chant. And I like what the Diamondbacks have been doing. You know, I like those like Carroll and Walker and Marte and some of those guys. Like, they're a fun story. They're a crazy story. But that was a very weak chant. Like, if you're going to go after the great Christopher Mad Dog Russo, you got to have everyone in the locker room serenading him, not just what it sounded like 4 or 5 guys. Mad dog, mad dog, mad dog, mad dog, mad dog, mad dog. That's like amateur hour trolling. I expected better from the Arizona Diamondbacks. And baseball players are crazy with those celebrations. Here is Torey Lovello, the manager of the Diamondbacks, who's now off to the World Series, on Mad Dog Russo's retirement promise.
I told him, you got to follow through. I know he and Stephen A. Smith go back and forth with all these broken promises. Like, somebody's got to follow through. And I know he probably worked his last day at the MLB Network, and we're taking applications over there in Arizona right now to work for the D-backs. We need good people. So it's good, fun banter. I consider him a friend of mine. And the last time I spoke to him on the air, he said, well, I'm coming at you. We're going to keep coming at you and keep coming at you. He said, give it back to me when you feel like you can. So I am right now.
So Moist Pork, Samter's BFF in the chat, says, wonder how he's going to get out of this one. Well, Mad Dog Russo was on with Howard Stern earlier this morning, and Howard Stern, he suggested to Mad Dog Russo that he has to dress in a bikini and hold the sign saying, like, I'm a douche or something, and walk a New York City block. And then he goes, everyone, if they have that image, will then get off your back on this entire thing. Mad Dog was on ESPN earlier today with First Take. He was basically doing whatever Stephen A. Smith asked him to do. Like, Stephen A. Smith had, I saw plastic on his coffee or his like yogurt or something, and he had to take the plastic off for Stephen A. Smith. I don't know if he was on MLB Network today, but I did see a tweet today that Mad Dog wasn't on his Sirius show. I don't think he's going to retire, but it is a fun little storyline here for the great Christopher Mad Dog Russo. Here is Kyle Schwarber on losing Game 7, the first Game 7 in the history of the Phillies franchise, to the Arizona Diamondbacks.
They beat us this series, and there's no ways around it. And it's definitely everyone's got a sick feeling in their stomach. It's not the way that we pictured this thing ending.
Yeah, that's an all-time choke job by the Philadelphia Phillies. You're up 3-2. That ballpark, you've been automatic in the postseason. The last 2 years, you have not lost a game at home to an NL team. The only 2 losses were to the Houston Astros, who were trying to become a dynasty and got their second World Series last year. And you lose both 6 and 7 in front of your fans. That is not only a choke job, it is an all-time choke job. And the Philadelphia Phillies go from being this great story to now becoming an embarrassment. Here is Charles Barkley on Inside the NBA via TNT when he presses the commissioner of the NBA, Adam Silver, on a domestic violence issue in the league.
I got one more question. I don't care. He said go to commercial, but I got a serious question for you. There's a couple of disturbing incidents of domestic violence in the NBA right now. What are we doing to address that? Because you can't put your hands on women, man. And we should be at the forefront in sports when the men hit women. So what are we as a league going to do about that?
Well, again, that's an area where we're not looking to compete against other leagues when you say forefront. So I think all the leagues are trying to address this issue, but I know we're addressing it. We have, state-of-the-art counseling professionals dealing with our players. But of course, and if a guy, does cross the line, the consequences are enormous.
We know Charles Barkley has a big brass set, let's just say. But there's a lot of people in media that would genuflect to the commissioner, and that would be a coward in front of the commissioner and would not ask him a single tough question. Good on Charles Barkley, who could ask whatever he wants, and he actually does so, utilizing his platform for good. And even when you have a producer getting in your ear, like Santa does this to me before, you got to get a break, you got to get a break, you got to get the break, you got to get the break. Break. It's so annoying when producers do that. But I understand you have a job to do. And good for Barkley basically saying, we could continue this conversation. We'll still get to the break. We'll still pay the bills and asking Adam Silver an actual tough question. TNT, though, had a big blunder the other night. Beginning Tuesday, the NBA season on TNT. So you had the Lakers going up against the Denver Nuggets, and you had the Warriors going up against the Suns. The graphic was LeBron James of the Lakers, okay. Steph Curry of the Warriors, okay. Kevin Durant of the Suns, okay. And then Jason Tatum of the Celtics? Celtics didn't play last night, right? And Nikola Jokic, who's won 2 MVPs and a finals MVP and is the reigning world champion, he's not on the graphic. Well, here's Charles Barkley on 92.5 Altitude Sports in Denver apologizing for TNT omitting the Joker.
You sent me the picture of our advertisement. I want to apologize to the Nuggets, the state of Colorado. I mean, that was total BS on our part. For us to have an opening billboard and not put the Joker on it, that was just stupidity on TNT's part.
And that's why you got to love Barkley. He doesn't make excuses. He doesn't get afraid that his network's going to get annoyed that he basically called them a bunch of idiots. And there's times where during the playoffs, where he'll go, oh, the NBA product stinks in the postseason. I'm watching the hockey as well. I love when Charles does that. And finally, here is James Franklin. After the loss to Ohio State, a few days afterwards, does his press conference and is talking positively about the loss to the Ohio State Buckeyes.
We talk about some positives from the game. We went on the road, battled the number 3 team in the country, and had a chance to win the game right down to the end. Protected the football. Thought we handled the crowd noise, and I thought for the majority of the game, we played like, if not the best defense in the country, one of the best defenses in the country, and so was theirs.
Participation State University. That's what Penn State has become. This bozo of a coach is in year 10 at the university, and he's like, oh yeah, I'm glad we just battled and competed until the end against the number 3 team in the country. We handled the crowd noise well? Are you kidding me? You're in year 1 or 2? Okay, I get it. You're trying to build your program? Sure. But when you're now 3-16 for crying out loud against top 10 teams in your pathetic tenure at Happy Valley, and you're now 0-10 on the road against top 10 teams, shut up with the moral victories. Shut up with the participation trophy culture. Woohoo! We showed up. We battled. Oh, we competed. We tried hard. Give me a break. Loser, James Franklin. You just don't get it.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
We continue. This is the Zach Gelb Show, coast to coast on CBS Sports Radio. We should be joined by Jordan Travis, who's having a sensational season with the Florida State Seminoles. They are undefeated, coming from behind to beat Duke last week, and they ended up winning the game 38-20. The Seminoles are now ranked 4th in the country and are 7-0. But we do have some breaking news, actually, as we get set for this Bengals-49ers game on Sunday, as Adam Schefter is reporting that Kyle Shanahan said Brock Purdy is now in concussion protocol. And Adam Schefter did go on to say Brock Purdy is now unlikely to play Sunday versus the Bengals. Based on this trend, no NFL player placed into concussion protocol this season has played the same week. The last player to be in concussion protocol who played the same week was last season when Kenny Pickett had a concussion in week 6 and was cleared to play in week 7. So now this is going to be, I guess, a Sam Darnold game for the San Francisco 49ers, which that becomes a very interesting story, because if you're someone like me, who I said, and this is not a knock on Brock Purdy, but when you ask me, is Brock Purdy more of a system quarterback right now, or is he a franchise quarterback? I've said he's a system quarterback, because you have that team when healthy with Trent Williams, and you have Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, and the play calling of Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan has kind of made this that it's more so my system, and they've rotated and done musical chairs with the quarterbacks throughout the years, where the quarterback, I don't want to say it doesn't matter, but they don't place an importance on the quarterback as much as we've seen. So now Brock Purdy is most likely going to be out this game, and we're going to see the storyline that does occur here with Sam Darnold. So we will circle back on that story later on in the show. But right now, joining us is the quarterback of the 4th-ranked Florida State Seminoles. They are 7-0 with big wins this season up against LSU to start off the year. Clemson in this past weekend did defeat Duke by a final score of 38-20. And now joining us is a Heisman hopeful and the quarterback of the Florida State Seminoles in Jordan Travis. Jordan, Zach Gelb here in our New York City studios on CBS Sports Radio. Appreciate the time. Congrats on your success so far. And how you been?
I'm good, man. Thank you for having me. I'm good. Just got done with workout, so just resting right now, chilling and ready for practice tomorrow.
What's the vibe around the team right now? Because going into this season, people had high expectations for your team. I thought you guys were going to win the ACC, and I know it hasn't been perfect, but you're winning these games and you're 7-0, and expectations are sky high right now.
The energy is really high around the locker room. I mean, I feel like when you come to Florida State, the expectations are always high. We've had a couple down years, and I've been part of a couple down years at Florida State. So, I mean, the ups and downs that we're going through now is way different than the ups and downs we used to go through when we were losing a lot. So, and I would take these ups and downs every single year. So yeah, man, the energy's high. We're 7-0. We're just trying to win the day every single day and take it day by day.
I know that the easy answer is now you guys are winning, but being in that facility, and I've always been a big fan of Mike Norvell, going back to his time at Memphis, what's really changed the last 2 years where this team has started to take this program back to where Florida State should be?
I would say the people, man. The people you get to do it with every single day. I'd say is one of the biggest parts of football, and when it comes to winning, I mean, when you're playing for your brothers next to you, not just yourself, I think that's one of the biggest parts of football. And the people that Coach Norvell bring in, whether it's transfers or freshmen, are really special people. It's people that I can be around every single day without any problems, with a smile on my face. I mean, if we have a break for 3 days and we come back, it feels like it's been a year since I've seen my teammates, and I miss them so much. So I'm just trying to cherish all these moments with these guys, knowing it's my last year. But yeah, man, the people around this program are really, really special.
I know you transferred into Florida State, but you've been there now for the last few seasons. We know transferring happens all the time now with the transfer portal. And like you said, Mike Norvell has really hit the ground running in the transfer portal. When you bring in new teammates, you being the leader, you being really the face of this team, why has everyone just seemed to transition coming into this program so seamlessly and be on the same page?
Once again, it's who Coach Norvell recruits. It's not selfish people. It's very selfless people that are about the team and about winning and about this culture. I mean, when you come in and there's another 110 guys that are acting a certain way, I feel like you kind of gel with those type of guys and start believing in the things that the other guys believe in. But when Coach Norvell asks you to come to Florida State, he never asks for your trust. He always proves it, and that he's very trustworthy. So yeah, man. I mean, the people we have around the locker room accept these guys in and make them feel at home right from the first day. They never feel like they're not at the right spot. So yeah, that's kudos to Coach Norvell and the coaching staff and this team, man.
Talking to Jordan Travis right now, the quarterback of the Florida State Seminoles. They are 7-0 and ranked 4th in the country. You guys got off to a slow start up against Duke. You end up beating them by 18 points. We know that's a very talented Duke team. What happened early on, and how did you guys not panic and be able to turn it around as the game got going?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like everyone was kind of speaks down on Duke a lot. I mean, at the end of the day, that's a really, really good Duke football team. That's probably the most talented defense we've played all year. They play very sound. I mean, there's not a lot of mistakes in that defense, and there's a bunch of older guys that just play really hard every single play. So their coach is doing a really great job with that. We know who we have on our side of the ball, though, week in, week out. It's just a matter of time in a game when it's going to click. And we need to work on clicking on all cylinders from start to finish. But I mean, our goal at the end of the day is to win a football game. So we're grateful for that. It starts up front with the offensive line. We have a great offensive line that fights really hard. They fight through adversity. It's a bunch of older guys on our offensive line that have been here with me through a lot of ups and downs. So I'm so proud of them because they used to get a lot of hate 2-3 years ago. There's nothing but negative vibes around them. They just keep working with smiles on their face, and I'm so grateful for them.
Does that kind of drive you a little bit? Because you guys had to build this thing from all the way down, and now you guys are getting to a pretty high level. Do you remember some of the negative things that were said about your program a few years ago?
That's the one thing with me, man. I don't forget anything at all. I remember hearing that I could only play running back, I can only play receiver. I remember hearing that the offensive line, we need to get a whole new offensive line and wipe all the guys out. I remember everything, man. But it just kind of gives you that drive and that push every single day is when you're not feeling great. Because at the end of the day, I always say, we're people, man. We always don't feel great. We feel sick some days, and we got to go out there and still perform no matter what. So, yeah, man, it's kind of like that chip on our shoulder that you need, and I absolutely love it. Because I'm not really worried about proving other people wrong. I'm always worried about proving myself right, and that's something that I've always believed in. My brother taught me that from a young age. So, yeah, man, just proving yourself right every single day is the main thing.
I know the job isn't done yet. You guys still have a long way to go, but it's been a heck of a start to this season. What has Jordan Travis and this Florida State program proved so far to everyone?
We proved that we're a well-disciplined team. We do have the right guys in this program. I feel like a lot of people don't believe we have the right guys. We just have a bunch of athletes across the field that just kind of do whatever. That is not true at all about this program. We have a bunch of guys that do our job, do your 111th every single game, every single play. But yeah, man, just a hard-fought team. This is a family that we love one another. With a great coaching staff that I wouldn't trade for anything in the world. Coach Norvell loves his football team and loves the people on his team just as much as his family. So, I mean, we're so grateful for our coaching staff and deserve.
Jordan Travis here with us from Florida State for a few more moments. It is the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. Jordan having a sensational season as the quarterback for the Florida State Seminoles. So we talked about the Duke game a little bit in the slow start. Same thing happened in Clemson too. But when you guys face some adversity, and I know you don't want to dig yourselves in a deep hole and you want to dominate all throughout, but that's just not what happens each and every game. It seems like you guys don't panic, and there's a sense of calm with this team. I know that's a credit to the coaching staff, but it's also a credit to the players. Why does the moment never get too big for you guys, even if you're working from behind in a game?
I think it's just the experience we have. I mean, we have a lot of guys that've been here for a while. So, yeah, man, we've been through a lot of ups and downs throughout our careers, and whether it's Jaheim at South Carolina or Keon at Michigan State, there's been so many ups and downs that it kind of makes it during a game. It kind of makes it relaxed. I mean, we know no matter what that we have a great offensive line, great running backs, great receivers, great tight ends, all that type of stuff, man. So we just got to trust our trust Coach Norvell and Coach Atkins to put us in the right position every single time. I mean, we always talk about how we want practice to be harder than games. So Coach Norvell pushes us really hard in practice where when you get to a game, man, we're so used to it. We work so hard in the off season with Coach Storms. He pushes us so hard, man, that we know we're just as strong as anybody in the country in the fourth and third quarter. So, I mean, we just go back to our fundamentals and trust that, man. God has a plan for us each and every day. So just trusting God's plan, man, and that's it.
You're a leader. Your energy and your attitude is really infectious. I know that you don't get complacent. Last year you had a monster season, and I've talked to your coach before about the work that you put in during the offseason. What did you really work on in the offseason after a great season to make this one even better for Jordan Travis?
Yeah, I worked on my fundamentals physically, but I feel like the biggest thing for me and a lot of players is the mental aspect of the game. Just watching the film a little bit more, doing things like that. And, I mean, the leadership, being a leader every single day and seeing how much that matters. Because when you're a young kid and people tell you you're the quarterback, you're the leader of the football team, you don't really embrace that and take that in and use it to your advantage, man. So I've learned this year. I want to do everything right, the little things right. Show up 10 minutes early to every single thing, which I've always done that. But, I mean, just being a little bit more focused this year with that, getting treatment, because I have younger guys that look up to me. And at the end of the day, it makes my job fun is when you have a freshman like Brock Glenn coming in and he's looking up to you. And I'm able to be myself every day and kind of show him the way of how, I mean, I've found that college is, I mean, how a college quarterback should act. I mean, I've been around for a long time and been around James Blackman, Mackenzie Milton, I mean, Kuma Pass at Louisville, and just seeing how those guys work, man, and how they treat people. So now I have the opportunity to do that for these younger guys, and it is a blessing for sure.
And when I see you play, you're one tough guy. I know you dealt earlier in the season with the arm injury. Are you 100% now? I know no one's ever 100% this time of the season, but how are you feeling with the arm?
My arm feels amazing. I'm 100% for sure.
Gotcha. All righty. It looks that way on the field, and I'm a Heisman Trophy voter, Jordan Travis, and your name has been one of the few names at the top in the Heisman Trophy race. When you hear that you're in that mix and you know that you're playing for a spot in the college football playoff, trying to win an ACC championship, a national championship as well, but when you hear your name getting thrown in the Heisman Trophy conversation, just what does that mean to you?
It means a lot to me, man. It does. But at the end of the day, I mean, I've always been a person where I feel like that the award is so prestigious and it's a blessing for the man upstairs to even be talked about in that conversation. But at the same time, man, my goal every single day is to win the day. Not just on the field, off the field, with the little kids I meet outside the stadium, with my teammates, continuing to gain their trust, and being able to continue to be the best leader I can be, the best son I could be, the best brother I could be. That's my goal every single day, going out and just giving everything I have in my body, no matter how I'm feeling. Just being able to bless other people. But, yeah, man, I'm so blessed and honored to be a quarterback at Florida State and to be talked about like that. But I couldn't do anything without my teammates, and I know where I came from, and I know how hard it's been throughout my career. So I give everything to my teammates and my coaches for putting me in the right position and making plays for me. I mean, you got Keon Coleman jumping up and Johnny making crazy plays and Trey and LT making big blocks and the offensive line fighting through adversity and injuries and making big-time blocks just to protect me and keep me upright. So I'm so thankful for my teammates and my coaches, and we just got to keep going and keep rolling.
Two more, and then I'll let you run. Wrapping up with Jordan Travis. Has been a sensational conversation with the Florida State quarterback. I know you're focused on the now, but people start projecting your NFL future. Let's just say I'm an NFL general manager, and I come to you and say, why should I draft you coming up in April? What does Jordan Travis bring to a football team?
A winner, something that stays out of trouble. I mean, I feel like that's really big, man, and just a leader, leading men. I feel like that's a huge part of football and playing quarterback is you have to learn how to lead men, lead by example. You always don't have to be that outspoken guy, but guys know it's the little things. And just being on time for everything, like I said, man, just giving everything you have to the game and loving your teammates no matter what. So, yeah, man, just a winner, a leader, a hard worker.
This just caught my eye. I don't know what you actually said, and maybe I'm making a bigger deal than what it actually is, but Riley Leonard, the quarterback of Duke, got hurt in the game. It looked like you guys had a brief or maybe even a longer exchange after the game. What did you say to Riley?
Oh, man, just I'm praying for him. I met him. He was my roommate at the Manning Passing Academy. So, I mean, I was looking forward to playing him for sure, and just seeing what he's been through this year and his career. I mean, all the ups and downs he's been through. And he's just a really special person. I mean, sitting in that room with him, we were roommates, and just talking, man, about life and football and what he's been through in his career, and just telling him what I've been through. We gained. I got a new friend, man, and I'm rooting for him always, and just letting him know that, man, that I have his back. And I reached out to him after the Duke game, and he texted me after the Clemson game. I don't know if that was the same week, but yeah, man, I'm just rooting for that kid. Hope he gets healthy soon and continues the ball out.
Last thing I'll ask you, in 20 years from now, when your playing days are over, how do you hope we're talking about Jordan Travis, the football player?
hard worker, just a tough player. That goes in every single day and just gives everything he has. And a winner. I mean, not just a winner in football, but a winner in life. How I treated everybody, how I treated my teammates, how my coaches felt about me. I feel like it's bigger than football at the end of the day. It's more about life. You learn so many life lessons throughout football. So, I mean, yeah, I just want to be known as a great person and a great football player.
Well, keep kicking ass, keep winning games, and good luck this weekend up against Wake Forest. Jordan Travis, we appreciate the time.
Thank you, man. Thank you for having me.
There you go, Jordan Travis. How do you not like that kid after hearing him? That was 15, 16, 17 minutes of just radio gold right there. That is a tremendous, and I mean a tremendous conversation. And every answer you had to love from what you heard from Jordan Travis. Like when you hear that guy, he just sounds like a quarterback. Then you see him play, he looks like a quarterback. And every time I watch him play, like his arm against Clemson looked like it was dangling. And he was just dominating and taking that team from behind. There are leaders, and then there's Jordan Travis. And what he's doing right now, it is impossible to not want to see Florida State continue their run of excellence this year. Zach Gelb Show, CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. 1 minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
Aren't they the same player? Where Kirk Cousins, you know he's a good quarterback. Do you ever think that you consistently have the top 10 quarterback in the league? No. Dak Prescott, there's times he looks like a top 10 quarterback. But in a big spot, just like you do with Kirk, you don't trust him. Now, there's moments where Dak looks great. But when the highlight of your career is how you played up against a team that was the worst team to get into the postseason this year, that's a problem.
Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
You know, I may have to revise that take because it's very tough to figure out who the top 10 quarterbacks are in football. Because Brady's retired, right? We've seen Big Ben go away. Aaron Rodgers is now hurt. Phillip Rivers is now out of the game. We've had a lot of big-time quarterbacks. I know it's years ago now, but Peyton Manning retire, and that was right after Super Bowl 50. But the quest to top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL, it's very tough. Like, I would say right now, if you go division by division, Josh Allen's a top 10 quarterback. Tua Tagovailoa's a top 10 quarterback. We know Mahomes is, Herbert is, Lamar Jackson is, Joe Burrow is, Trevor Lawrence is. So just in the AFC, those are 7. But then you go to the NFC. All right, Jalen Hurts, absolutely. No one I could say definitely in the NFC West. NFC North, no one definitely. And the NFC South, no one definitely. So that's 8 that I just gave you. And you got to pick 2 more. Dak's in the conversation. Matthew Stafford in the conversation. Jared Goff in the conversation. Kirk Cousins in the conversation. Now, outside of that, that's probably it. Like, I can't say Watson. He's never on the field anymore. CJ Stroud hasn't played enough. And if I had to pick 2 off that list, I'm not picking Dak. Stafford, I just don't know what the longevity of his career is going to be. Like, I'd probably hold my nose and go Kirk Cousins and Goff. And you could debate those final 2 names. You can. You could definitely debate them. But man, that's very underwhelming. And all we do, right, as fans, talk show hosts, observers of football, fantasy football players, gamblers, every Monday in football season, I could guarantee you from now until the end of the season, we will either start a Monday show coming off a big football Sunday talking about 1 or 2 things. What quarterback succeeded or failed, or what coach succeeded or failed. And Samter, that's kind of surreal to me with how much we obsess about the quarterbacks, with certain guys retiring, guys being hurt right now, where we ask who the top 10 quarterbacks in football, yeah, you could easily just read off 7 or 8 names, and no one would debate those 7 or 8 names. But the 9th and 10th spot, that's really open for debate, and it's kind of like humana when we're trying to figure out who the 9th and 10th quarterback is in the NFL.
No, you're right. And we were going through it before the show, just kind of going down the list. And like you said, there's like that 6 or 7 or 8 guys. You're like, okay, these are the guys. And then you get to like the Tuas and the Russell Wilsons. And
well, Russ isn't anymore.
No, but like you get to the Dax. You get to these names, the Kirk Cousinses.
Yeah.
And like, could you have Kirk 12? Sure. Could you have him 8? Sure.
Yeah.
You can make that argument either way. And the Jared Goffs, right? Like the Geno Smiths. It's really interesting to see how you have 5, 6, 7 guys that are really the guys, and then everybody else, there's kind of like a logjam from 8 to 15 of a bunch of guys that are fairly interchangeable.
You bring up the name Geno Smith. Now, he's got to prove it again this year. But if he takes that team to the playoffs again, and I know he has a bunch of weapons, I guess Brock Purdy's now also in the conversation too, even though I think he's more product of the system. But if Geno Smith replicates what he did last year, it's not crazy to say that maybe Geno Smith could be a top 10 quarterback entering the NFL next season. That's wild.
He's on pace for 4,000 yards and over 20 touchdowns. So
which are fine numbers in 2023 of football.
Sure. And listen, it doesn't, but right, Kirk Cousins every year has the numbers and oftentimes doesn't have the win-loss success to go along with those statistics. Whereas Geno, he's winning and putting up respectable numbers at this stage of his career.
Yeah, and he just has to do it for a longer period of time, of maybe a 3-4 year window that he has left in the NFL after being irrelevant for 10 years and now being right back into the conversation. Here is Troy Aikman and Joe Buck saying that Kirk Cousins is a top 10 quarterback. Was this on the ESPN Monday Night Football broadcast? Here is Troy Aikman and Joe Buck.
2 touchdowns on throws 10 or more yards downfield. He's been really good here tonight.
He sure has. Everybody has an opinion on Kirk Cousins. He's a top 10 quarterback in my book.
So here's how I'll react to that. We've talked about it. You could easily make a case that Kirk Cousins is like the 9th or 10th best quarterback in football. But I don't think Kirk Cousins is definitely going to be back with the Minnesota Vikings next year. No crap, his contract expires. But I'm starting to look around the league, and we know there's one coach that has a good relationship with Kirk Cousins and has been trying to get Kirk Cousins to that team for a long time, and that's Kyle Shanahan. And even though Brock Purdy was rocking out with this Brock out earlier in the season, and he was looking Purdy awesome, and everyone was bowing down to Brock Purdy and saying he's the next franchise quarterback, the last 2 weeks have kind of shown he's more of a system quarterback than a franchise quarterback. Now we have this report that Brock Purdy, according to Adam Schefter, is in concussion protocol and he's not expected to play this weekend. If Sam Darnold plays well, that's going to be more of a system quarterback kind of take, centering and surrounding the narrative about Brock Purdy. So what about this offseason with Kirk Cousins as a free agent? Kirk Cousins is a good quarterback, has never really played on a great team. Imagine Kirk Cousins in the Bay Area with Kyle Shanahan, with Christian McCaffrey. If Trent Williams could still play another year, and he's a dominant left tackle, we all know that. He's going to the Hall of Fame. You got Debo, you got Brandon Ayuk. It's not crazy to say that Kirk Cousins could be the missing piece for the San Francisco 49ers to win a Super Bowl. We got to see how the rest of the season plays out and how we're talking about Brock Purdy at the end of the year. But there's no really long-term commitment to Brock Purdy. He's making under $1 million next year and then a little over $1 million in 2025. And if Brock Purdy isn't that dude at the end of the year, and we know how quickly Kyle Shanahan runs through quarterbacks, Kyle Shanahan has been trying to get Kirk Cousins for years out in the Bay Area. We'll be making that phone call when Kirk Cousins enters free agency after this season. It is the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. We will take a break. When we come on back, we have to react to the baseball from last night. We already knew that the Texas Rangers punched their ticket to the Fall Classic. The Astros were up 3-2 after the heroic Jose Altuve performance in Game 5. Then Adolis Garcia was basically poked, and in Game 6 he was dominant. In Game 7 he was dominant, and the Rangers went to the Astros' house, and they won Game 6 and 7 to advance to the World Series. On the other side in the NL, the Philadelphia Phillies dominant at home. Phillies fans dancing on their own at Citizens Bank Ballpark. What an electric atmosphere. The last 2 postseasons, they have not lost to an NL team in the postseason. They were a crazy 12-2, and the only 2 losses were up against the Houston Astros last year in the World Series. Well, the Philadelphia Phillies, who were up 2-0, lost Game 3, choked away Game 4, then won Game 5. Oh, it's 3-2. It's a lock. They're going to win one of these 2 games in Game 6 or 7. Lost Game 6, and last night they lost Game 7, and the big bats were silenced in Philadelphia. So now, against all odds, our World Series matchup is the Arizona Diamondbacks and the Texas Rangers. And let me just say this. If you are a baseball fan that's like, oh, no one's going to watch this World Series. Oh, this World Series sucks. Oh, this is terrible for baseball. I don't want to hear that today. Because what makes baseball so fun for me is how unpredictable it is. No one could have guessed Diamondbacks Rangers Fall Classic before the start of this postseason. But that's where we are right now. And with how unpredictable this road is and how we got here, I'm not going to rain on the parade of Rangers fans and Diamondbacks fans and say, man, this World Series is going to suck. This World Series is going to blow. No, I'm not doing that. I'm pumped up for this World Series. And we can get behind Samter here because he lived in Arizona for how many years, Moist Mike?
7.
7 years? So are you a D-backs fan? Have you adopted the Arizona Diamondbacks since the Yankees have tortured you recently?
No.
Oh, so you're still upset with what happened in the early 2000s?
Absolutely.
Gotcha. Well, maybe we'll get you some Arizona gear, and you could kind of be a snake and sliver your way to the Diamondbacks, just like how you got off the Jets bandwagon and are now rooting for the Kansas City. How about those Chiefs?
Yeah, let's go Chiefs Kingdom, baby.
So Chiefs and Diamondbacks fan for Moist Mike.
The D-backs are fine. D-backs are fine. I don't hold the grudge specifically that I root against them, but I certainly can't root for them against a team that I like. You know, this World Series is going to be interesting.
Yeah.
I don't hate the D-backs.
You want to know what I'm rooting for?
Tell me.
Assuming Max Scherzer gets a start in this World Series, I want to see him get lit up like a Christmas tree. I can't stand Max Scherzer the last 2 years.
It's kind of what Brad Lidge implied, that we're not gonna see vintage Max Scherzer.
Yeah, he was saying if he gets through 3 innings, that's actually like a win for the Rangers.
Yeah.
How the mighty have fallen for Mad Max. So we'll take a break. We'll come on back. We'll talk to former big league slugger Mo Vaughn when the Zach Gelb Show returns after these short messages. First up, though, with the latest CBS Sports Radio update, here he is, the Ackman, Rich Ackerman.
CBS Sports Radio. Sports Flash.
Well, the 49ers have suffered back-to-back losses and now have likely lost their quarterback for this week. With Brock Purdy in concussion protocol, he did not practice today. Purdy apparently began experiencing symptoms on the way home from Minnesota on Monday night. With Ryan Tannehill out, the Titans are reportedly set to debut second-round pick Will Levis as he's getting prepared to start in place of the injured starter. DeShaun Watson's injured shoulder is keeping him out of practice today and unlikely to play Sunday at this point. Also, Anthony Richardson underwent season-ending surgery on his ailing right shoulder. Free agent Frank Clark reportedly signing with the Seahawks. The Cowboys' Trayvon Diggs had surgery on his torn ACL, expected to be 100% for the start of next season. The NBA season opened with a pair of games last night, a full schedule tonight. The defending champs notched their first win after getting their rings, and tonight the Spurs unveil the league's newest sensation, top pick overall, Victor Wembanyama. James Harden has reportedly returned to the Sixers and will accompany them to Milwaukee for tomorrow's season opener, and Brewers manager Craig Counsell interviewing for the Mets vacant post. I'm Rich Ackerman.
Looking for CBS Sports Radio online? Your favorite hosts and the best sports content and entertainment are available 24/7 on social media and YouTube, and in the palm of your hand with the free Odyssey app.
CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Now back to the Zach Gelb Show.
All righty, we'll talk some postseason baseball right now with former big league slugger in Mo Vaughn, and former MLB All-Star Mo Vaughn is an ambassador for Perfect Game and also runs the Vaughn Sports Academy in Boynton Beach, Florida. Perfect Game is the world's largest youth baseball and softball platform and scouting service. For more information on their 2024 events, you could visit perfectgame.org. Mo Vaughn, appreciate the time. Thanks so much. It's a thrill for me. How you been?
Zach, how you doing, brother? Doing all right. Everything's I'm down here in Boca Raton, just working away, coaching, doing a bunch of stuff, watching these playoffs. Very surprised. about Arizona. I just knew coming in to Philly in that last game was just going to be like a grindhouse. But you got to give it to Arizona, man. They stayed strong. They got that young lefty. That's a really good dynamic player with a big heart. Colin, I think his name is Colin.
Corbin Carroll, yeah.
Corbin Carroll. This guy is a catalyst, and he swung the bat really well, made the plays. They came in with the bullpen, so AZ looks very tough.
So something I've always admired about you and your family is you always try to help people out. I was a kid and I had my Mo Vaughn jersey. I was a Mets fan and I was in a luxury box, and your family was the luxury box over, and they saw me with the Mo Vaughn jersey. And your family, I guess they had a luxury box all the time when you played for the Mets. They were just absolutely awesome. Why was it always so important, even during your playing days and now after, to continue to give back for not only you, but also for your family?
I just think it's very, very important. I was always taught if you have capacity, you have strength, a little bit of knowledge, and a little bit of influence, try to use that in the right way to help others. I was very, very fortunate. Two parents growing up, school teachers. We had a very good, young, structured life that gave me the ability to be successful on many, many fronts, as an athlete, afterlife, communicating, doing certain things. So just whenever you see, an ability to help somebody, you do that in whatever capacity it is. And just, being in youth sports, working with PG, I get to do that a lot. Even against, kids I'm playing against that are beating my tail, that are, that are dismantling my team. I'm always trying to offer the right mindset and coaching and tips and things, because I just like seeing people that go out and be successful. So I'm in a very, very good space right now in my life.
Mo Vaughn here with us. You were talking about the youngster Corbin Carroll and what he's done for the Arizona Diamondbacks. You know what it's like early on in a career to try to make a name for yourself and really captivate the sport. Just how do you kind of reflect on your first few years of the career and how you were able to handle not only making a name for yourself, but just the mental part of it and the grind day to day when you're trying to become a star?
I'm always very, very in awe, especially these young guys that come up and really destroy the playoffs. It's like they come up and they raise their game to the another level, like Corbin, or even the guys like Bryce Harper that just get to the playoffs. It's really what you want to be and what you are. I wasn't that fortunate when I played. I went 0 for 15 my first year in '95 against Indians, and it was a tremendous learning experience. But I always in awe of some of these young guys. These guys coming up to the plate, stepping up on the mound, just in that moment. I just think it's great. I think there's a lot of great players out there in our game today, and that's what you want to be in those big moments, and that's what you try to teach and what you try to coach.
Mo Vaughn here with us. On the flip side for Philadelphia, when you're winning, and you know what it's like in a big city, passionate city like Boston and New York, the two that you played in, you're revered and everyone's loving you and it's great. Then you lose game 6, you lose game 7, and now everyone turns against you. What do you think the Phillies players are going through today, coming off a World Series appearance last year, trying to get back there this year, looking like they were a lock to do so, and then bam, it hits you right in the face, and now you're going home and getting ready to schedule your tee times for the offseason?
One thing I like about the Phillies, though, is that they have the type of temperament. Their manager has the type of temperament. These guys are going to come back. Bryce Harper at the lead, Castellanos, all these guys, Trey Turner, these guys will, Real Muto, these guys will be back. And that's just the way Philly is. They're going to drive you. Even when you don't want to be driven, they're going to drive you. So they're going to, they've been, they got there last year, a step away this year. They're going to be a team to be. I don't see them folding for a long time. They got that, inner Philadelphia fury. It will come out and they'll get their shot.
When you look at this World Series matchup, everyone's stunned. Like going into the postseason, no one could have looked at the bracket and said, it's going to be the Rangers and it's going to be the Arizona Diamondbacks. Some people today, just because they don't like the matchup, go, oh, this is boring. Oh, this sucks. And I think that's lame because the postseason played out how it is, and it's been remarkable so far. What's your first thought on this World Series matchup between the Rangers and the Diamondbacks?
I never went to a World Series, so to me, anybody that gets there has done great things. And who cares if it's not the Yankees or East Coast bias? These dudes, these 24 guys have come together and stepped up. And I'm going to tell you, the Texas has got a heartbeat. You saw that against, my buddy Dana Brown, who's the GM of the Astros coming out of Seton Hall. They got them. They're not flinching. And you look at what Arizona did, they're not flinching. So this is going to be a heavyweight fight. It's kind of funny. You think about Texas, though. What happens if DeGrom and, Max Scherzer are on top of their game? Where would that be? But right now, it's 7 games. I think these guys are going to battle out. I think nobody's going to give an inch. It's going to be a tough series. I think, Evaldi has stepped up and is nasty. And, Scherzer gets another chance to be himself. I think the guys over there in Arizona have come from the wild card, continuously playing tough series, have sharpened their tools and are ready. So I look forward to a great series.
You know what it's like to be in the zone, right? You've won an MVP. There's sometimes you get up to the plate and the ball just looks like a beach ball for you. Adolis Garcia, that was it for him in the ALCS. And he's had an incredible season. But to see what he did and how he was just a machine up against a team that was right on the cusp of becoming a dynasty of the Houston Astros. How did you kind of process that one, Mo Vaughn?
That guy's awesome. His spray chart is unbelievable. The last game, he took a ball to right field, looked like a left-handed batter hitter. He pulled the ball, hit the ball in the gap, base hits. I don't really know I don't know if there's been some past bad blood between these guys in terms of him getting hit, but him getting hit, sometimes, you let sleeping dogs lie, and he woke up and he's been on the money. So I look for that dude to really make an impact, in the next 7 games.
Before we let you run, Shohei Ohtani, I know he's dealing with the injury, so he's not going to pitch next year, but he's expected to still be able to hit. When you look at Shohei Ohtani, where do you think he'll land? That's the multi-million-dollar question as we get on this quest to free agency when the offseason gets underway.
First of all, before we get to that, I had a great experience. I was able to take my son to 2 WBC games. And first, to see the United States talent was just unbelievable. Just all the guys, that walked out there. I got to see, some of these guys that I never saw before up live. I was with my son. That was awesome. And then to see Shohei, I mean, this dude is every bit as advertised. His matchup, in the end with Mike Trout was unbelievable. But just the way he plays and he goes about his business, I think, he really was just willing Japan to win this thing. But just this guy's overall presence is just awesome on the field, in the batter's box. He's so dynamic. Now, in terms of where I think he will go, I think that it will stay somewhere on the West Coast. And I know it's a big, giant West Coast, but I'm thinking either back with the Angels or possibly the Dodgers. I think, Japan is close to that west side where he could get that direct flight. I think that's important to him. So I'm thinking either it's going to be back where he is or possibly LA.
Before we let Mo Vaughn run, tell me a little bit more about the work you're doing with Perfect Game and also the Vaughn Sports Academy.
Well, listen, Vaughn Sports Academy, we're down here servicing over 300 people and, kids in the Boca Raton area. We are a one-stop shop, with UA athletes. You can come here and get every part of your game worked on in terms of pitching, outfield, infield, defense, catching, all these things. And also we have a great workout facility on the other side where you're going to get some of the best training with recovery. And in terms of Perfect Game, I just love being a part of that, mentoring people, mentoring youth, I'm back in the game. I never thought I was going to be. My son started playing ball. He's 11 years old, started playing ball about 6 years ago, got me back on the field, being involved with Perfect Game, working, in the Palm Beach County area, trying to run tournaments, but being, just a member of the team is great. In 2024, Perfect Game is going to throw over 5,000 tournaments, across the country. So that's always a great thing. And, there's, it's always growing. There's, on the business side, you have PGTV, all the different social, media, avenues and channels they're involved with. So for me, it's able to be out there, be around young people, mentor them, give them all the mental and physical things that you can possibly do to make them better. And I'm right where I started as a kid, at 8 years old, playing Cap League on the field, coaching young people and trying to give them the knowledge. So I'm very, very happy at this point.
Well, I only got 30 seconds left. Last thing I'll ask you, because you said you're in Boca right now. I was just there last week visiting some family. You're looking slim. You're looking good. Give me a new food spot, though, in Boca. Where's your favorite food spot to grub out in Boca?
Man, they got it. You know what else? I like this sandwich shop. It's called it's VNS. Down there on what is it? On US 1, VSA in Boca and sandwiches. They got the best sandwiches. I'm a Northeast guy. I like those thick sandwiches when I'm not eating well. But it's Boca's been great. It's been great to me. The people here have been great to me. I love it here. My family's here. It's just been a good journey for me so far.
We'll have to try it out. Mo Vaughn, appreciate the time. Thanks so much for doing this. Be well.
All right, Zach. Good luck, baby. See you later.
There you go. Mo Vaughn joining us right here on the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. We'll take a break. When we come on back, we'll circle into the Michigan Wolverines story. What's the latest going on with Jim Harbaugh? What should Harbaugh do? Should Michigan be punished right now? We still got Take 5 Wednesday, my top 5 teams in the college football and NFL coming up later on. Final hour, Zach Gelb Show, CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Hour number 3 of our radio program. Welcome on in. Wednesday afternoon, Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. Really fun show so far. Bucks president Peter Feigin stopped by to take us behind the scenes of the Bucks contract negotiations with Giannis Antetokounmpo and also the trade for Damian Lillard. And then in last hour, we had 2 conversations. One with Jordan Travis, the quarterback of the Florida State Seminoles, who are 7-0. They play Wake Forest this weekend, and he is right in the midst of the Heisman Trophy conversation. And we were just joined a few moments ago by former big league slugger in Mo Vaughn. And I always remember 2 home run hitters that I loved watching as a kid and seeing in person were Mo Vaughn and Carlos Delgado. And at Shea Stadium, they had that big Budweiser scoreboard with the Mets logo, like all the way at the top of that big, gigantic, enormous scoreboard. And to just see Mo Vaughn and then eventually Carlos Delgado tattoo home runs off that scoreboard were just awesome. And Mo Vaughn, he had a big guy. He had a vicious swing, and he was such a fun player to watch. But anyway, let's get back into one of the biggest stories in sports right now, and that's Jim Harbaugh. And I don't know about you guys. Like, you would agree, Stu. I know you kind of been home the last 2 days, out sick. But you've been able to watch all the coverage and listen to all the coverage from afar. Like, this Michigan story, I'm not crazy here. It's getting covered as a big deal and as like this is the most like egregious thing to ever occur, right?
Yeah, you would think there'd been a very, very serious offense being committed by Harbaugh in Michigan.
So let's just see. I'm not only just talking to Stu there, and it's only my feeling. Samter, the coverage of this would suggest that this is like in the last 24, 48, 72 hours, as this is one of the craziest things to ever happen to college football.
I don't necessarily think that the coverage of the actual incident is claiming that this is the craziest thing, but the details are crazy. The information that we're hearing is crazy. The fact that they sent this guy who would sit the 50-yard line at all these games in the Big Ten. He's a Marine. He would sit the 50-yard line on either side of the field. He would go to non-SEC or non-Big Ten games. He'd go to SEC games and other teams that were potentially going to be in the college playoff. The details are juicy. The actual act itself certainly is not, death penalty worthy. It's not, vacate wins necessarily, but...
Well, it depends who you're asking. Ohio State fans, Penn State fans are going to be like, throw the book at Michigan. We can't beat them right now. Down with Harbaugh, down with Michigan. Lock them up and throw the key. But when Zach Smith did what he did and Urban Meyer lied to everyone, poor Urban Meyer, he did nothing wrong. Or when, unfortunately, the horrible acts and the heinous acts of Jerry Sandusky occurred on the campus of Penn State, it was like, Joe Pod didn't know. And now all those fan bases are ready to jump down the throat of Jim Harbaugh.
And I think the difference is, listen, to compare Jerry Sandusky and Paterno, to compare Zach Smith.
Totally different.
The reason why I think that this matters in a different way is this specifically plays towards competitive advantage.
Integrity of the game.
And integrity of the game.
Yeah.
And if Michigan didn't seem to benefit from this advanced scouting, I wouldn't really care. Jim Harbaugh's record before and after this is purported to have happened and started.
You're using big words today. Jeez. And you're the smart one on this show. We're supposed to be.
His win-loss record before and after the alleged scheme is significantly different. He goes from like a 60% win percentage to a 90-something% win percentage. He goes from 1 or 2 wins against the big three in the Big Ten to being undefeated against Ohio State and Penn State. There is a significant advantage gained. And at the end of the day, you're right. It's not the biggest scandal in the history of college football, but it's a big deal. It's going to taint Jim Harbaugh's record. If they win a national title or even a Big Ten championship this year, it's going to add questions to whether or not they deserved it.
That's why you're wrong.
This is a big deal. This is a bigger deal than I think you're making it out to be. Maybe a smaller deal than guys like Ryan Hickey and the Penn State fan base are making it out to be. But this is a big deal.
But here's why you're wrong. You just said if Michigan wins this year, the championship would be tainted. Now everyone is watching. And the thing that gets lost here is how frequently programs change their signs to begin with. Now everyone, when they go up against Michigan, just out of the fear and the paranoia, is going to change their signs. It's similar to when the Patriots got busted for Spygate. And then they went on that run and that bleep you season of 2007 where they almost went undefeated, where they got exposed so early, and then they said, okay, we'll line up against anybody and just beat the snot out of you. And regardless if you have the signs or not, the last 2 years, Michigan finally got their identity. And their identity was built in the trenches.
Their identity is cheaters.
No, but you look at that team, I don't care if they had the signs or not. It's obvious what happened the last 2 years against Ohio State. They beat the snot out of that defense with their offensive line and their run game, and they ran right in between them and right through the tackles, and they hit in a big home run play on a passing play. So, with going off of everything that we're finding out, 2 things. One, you're not wrong in when I say like Zach Smith and when I say Jerry Sandusky. Yes, those acts are a lot more heinous and a lot more important than a Marine stealing signs and having this whole scheme. But it is similar, like, right, with the way that we talked about Deflategate, where there's a lot of fans that can't separate the two, and they'll go look at the domestic violence issues that occur in the NFL, and nothing ever happens, and then Tom Brady gets slapped with the 4-game suspension for allegedly deflating footballs. But to reel this back into my original point, I think this has been a pretty significant story in the last 48 to 72 hours. And that's why I was kind of stunned in a publication that I like a lot in Awful Announcing. And they've put some nice things out about this show and about me as a talk show host before. But they had this article today, why isn't the Michigan cheating scandal a bigger story? And that was, to me, when I saw the headline, I read the article, I'm like, wait, this is a pretty big story. We've talked about this for 3 straight days. This has been a national story. So I was a little confused today when Awful Announcing put out this article, why isn't the Michigan cheating scandal a bigger story? But like Tiki Barber, for example, he played. Tiki Barber works right down the hall from us. Tiki Barber used to be on CBS Sports Radio for years before he went down the hall to WFAN. I asked Tiki yesterday, I said, do you think this is that big of a deal? And he goes, no, it goes on all the time. And things like this happen. I do think teams steal signs. That's been going on for years. Now, sending someone to go film the opponent and have tickets to all these games, that stuff doesn't necessarily always go on. So Michigan needs to be punished. Michigan needs to be punished to some degree. But I don't think this is, let's throw the book and let's tear down the Michigan program. But for the NCAA, as Coach Prime would say, now this is personal. Because Michigan already had one impending issue with, for the most part, very insignificant recruiting violations during COVID and a little bit after that. And because Harbaugh did not bow down to the almighty NCAA, now the NCAA, with more information and more against Michigan and something that is more serious than what they had a few months ago, I think this is personal now for the NCAA. But I said this yesterday and I'll say it again. Anyone that anticipates the NCAA to quickly swoop in and ban Michigan from postseason play this year, you don't follow the NCAA. And for anyone putting pressure on the Big Ten to say, oh, Michigan can't compete in their Big Ten championship game this year, they'll never do that. Because no matter what the other schools say in the Big Ten knows how great Michigan can be this year. And Michigan has a chance to win the college football playoff. They're not going to let that get in the way of what the other schools may want to have happen. I think it's pretty weak that the other schools also are advocating for Michigan right now to basically be shut down and not to be allowed in postseason play or the Big Ten championship game. And the NCAA is notoriously slow. And they take forever to give out a punishment and a punitive action. So I don't think you're realistic right now if you believe that the NCAA is going to swoop in and drop the hammer on Michigan before the college football playoff with 5 games left in the regular season. If you're operating under that belief, you are just delusional. It's like the definition of jackassery. You are not in touch with reality with the way that the NCAA operates. Because the way the NCAA operates is you let the season play out and then they do something which is the dumbest thing that we do in sports. And that's vacate wins and vacate national championships. I say this all the time. Whether it's with steroids in baseball, whether it's with recruiting violations or sign stealing, as the public, we may put an asterisk on it. Okay, that's fine. But the actual leagues that try to erase history that occurred just tell the story. So if you want to, let's say Michigan wins a national championship this year and you want to make the sign stealing thing the story, that's you're right. But don't tell me that Louisville didn't win a basketball national championship a few years ago. Don't tell me Reggie Bush didn't win a Heisman Trophy. Don't tell me Michigan the last 2 years didn't win 2 Big Ten championships. And that's something that drives me bonkers with the NCAA is when an infraction occurs, they take away wins. I can't stand Jim Boeheim. I think Jim Boeheim, the last few years, just did a disservice to his legendary coaching career. And Jim Boeheim, the last few years, is a big baby. And it's comical to me, that guy, that all he did was try to attack the media and attack student journalists. The moment that dude gets forced out, they call it a retirement, but he got forced out. Now he joins the media. But Jim Boeheim, as much as I don't like that guy, the fact that the NCAA took away some of his wins is ridiculous. So when the NCAA eventually takes away some wins from Michigan here, that's just stupid. It's dumb. But overall, I think the most fascinating thing here now, and more information will come out, and I think a lot of people like Jeff Saturday didn't have a big deal with the sign stealing. Tiki Barber didn't have a big deal with the sign stealing. Yes, Michigan took it to a different level. I'm not exonerating Michigan here. They did take it to a different level. But for me, this is not the worst thing in the world to ever happen in college sports. And I don't think we need to tear down Michigan. There needs to be some penalty. But we don't need to tear down Michigan and make this out to be a bigger deal than what it actually is. And a lot of people in football are like, so what? This isn't that big of a deal in their mind. And for me, that matters. Now, I did tell you yesterday, Samter, that we should dress up on Tuesday, right? Is Halloween, I believe, next week? So you're on board? Do you have a costume idea in mind?
None whatsoever. I'll come up with something.
Well, you better get game planning. Because I'm coming prepared for Halloween, and it may, all I'm going to say, don't want you to guess it. I may give it away here, but it may have something to do with this topic that we're talking about right now.
I have an idea.
Stu, I feel like Stu, ever since getting the girlfriend, has had a different social life here. And Stu, there's been a different Stuart Kovacs now. Stu looks like a movie star now. Stu walks around the office with some confidence and some swagger and some touch. Some people even say Stu looks a little bit like Mike McDaniel. I see that in the chat time from time. I think Stu, if we just leave it up to Stu to dress up for Halloween, Stu will be like, I'm not really going all out. But if we communicate to the missus that we expect Stu to have a certain Halloween costume or do something for Halloween, I then think Stu will go all out. You all in to dress up for Halloween?
I'm all in. There's something in the works.
Oh, already something in the works? And so is this something that was already pre-planned before I even said we were going to dress up for Halloween?
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I'm looking for, is this something that you and your significant other are dressing up as like a little duo and you're coming to work?
It's not a duo. It's a singular stew.
Singular stew.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Bachelor stew, as some may say.
By the way, I did take your advice. I mentioned to the wife about doing a joint baby husband-wife thing. She has no interest. My wife is not into dressing up at all. I keep trying to get her because our dog's birthday is the day before Halloween.
Yeah.
She just refuses to get him a costume. So she's not into the costume idea. I'm trying to push it.
So your wife's feeling some type of way right now.
She's just not big into dressing up. We have a costume for the baby, but not for us.
So my Michigan scouting report of your wife, that sounds really wrong now that I say it out loud, was totally off. I thought...
Were you sitting outside in a tree and filming us? Is that what you're talking about, Michigan scouting report?
Potentially. You had filet mignon the other night with some asparagus, right? And some mashed potatoes.
It's actually kind of creepy. That's what we had last night.
Oh, really?
Oh, man.
Ma, those ain't no mashed potatoes.
That's really creepy.
That was just a random guess.
No, we
or
didn't have
was
that.
it?
I'm just messing with you.
Ma, those ain't no mashed potatoes. One of my favorite lines from the Notorious B.I.G. movie. But anyway, I thought from the two times I met your wife at a one was a Super Bowl. Was she ever at the office?
She came here a couple times. She's been to a Final Four and a couple Super Bowls.
I remember meeting your wife 2 times. She's very bubbly personality, very nice person. I thought she would have been the typical gal that would be like, oh, we got to dress up. Santa's got to be a pumpkin with the baby or for Halloween or a scarecrow, something like that. I thought she would have been all in for that. So what I suggested...
I'm in for her. She has no interest.
So, wow, I thought that was going to get you some brownie points, a little bam, chicka, wham, wham time with the missus. I really thought that.
I mean, that's not how marriage works, but okay.
Yeah. Well, I thought, hey, Mike wants to actually dress up this year and play with the game. I really thought that was going to help you with your misses. But hey, sometimes, even Michael Jordan missed a few shots, right? That's just what I'll say. I don't know if I'm comparing myself to Michael Jordan, but hey.
I don't know. I'm more like Kyle Kuzma, maybe. I missed a lot more shots than Michael Jordan did.
I would think you're more like Grayson Allen. You got that dirty side to you where you just trip people and punch people.
I don't know if I should take that as a compliment.
You're like a mixture of Grayson Allen and Draymond Green. You win. There's some championship DNA, but you may be kicking some people where it hurts. Oh, one of my all-time favorite people. Oh, this is great. Sully is calling us. The great Sully. Sully, what's happening, my friend?
Zach, my guy, what are we doing?
What are we doing? We're having some fun. We're doing a little radio show here on CBS Sports Radio.
Buddy, you filled in. Now you're my favorite afternoon drive time people, right? We still got Stu and Samter just chilling there.
Yeah, we've acquired the services of Stu and Samter, and they always do a sensational job.
Buddy, I love those two behind the glass. They're great people, as well as I love you, buddy. How you been?
Well, I've been fantastic. Different lifestyle now, doing the afternoon show, and I miss Sully, and I'm just hoping now being in this afternoon time slot, and we'll see if it becomes permanent, if now I get to acquire Sully, and we basically kick Perloff to the curb, and now you're my guy.
Buddy, you always my guy. Maggie and Perloff, they're on way too early for the West Coast to be able to catch maybe the last 30 minutes of their show. It's way too early for me out here.
Well, here's the big question, Sully, that I have for you. Before you give your point on Michigan, because I know you want to talk about Harbaugh. Were you happy that the Pats won last weekend? Because I wasn't.
My mind flipped during that game to this season. I don't want to sit on a Sunday or a Monday or a Thursday for 3.5 hours and root for my team to lose. So I'm just going to see where this season goes.
Gotcha.
I'm just going to see where it goes.
Yeah, I'm all in on the tank. I want to lose, and get a great draft pick and get a new quarterback.
Who do you pick?
No, I want the number 1 overall pick, and I want Caleb Williams.
Well, what if you don't get one? What if you get the other guys? Who do you go up to after that?
Drake May, from UNC. That's where I'm going. But if I don't get one of the top 2 guys, then I'm out on a quarterback.
Buddy, I watched that Oregon-Washington game.
Penix is great.
I'm all in on Penix. Penix Jr. was putting the ball in the size of a keyhole.
Yeah, I would take.
He was outstanding.
I would take Michael Penix Jr. You're right. Throw that name into the conversation as well. If Shador comes out, I'd take him too. But they need a new quarterback because they've already messed up Mac and they didn't get enough talent. But what do you want to say quickly, Sully, about Michigan? I know you were wanting to chomp at the bit on Harbaugh.
I really don't think it's a big deal. I really don't. I mean, Samter came with some stats, but I'm not a big stat guy either because you could probably Google some other stats and it would shoot all those things out the window. But it's not a big deal. Like, he's up. They got nothing else to talk about. I think Harbaugh, I've loved Harbaugh as a coach. I love the way he coaches. I'm not a fan of his brother just because of the Baltimore Patriots. But I'm always in for, look, he's taking young men and young boys and teaching them how to be men. So what? So they looked at a couple of things. I think it's all baloney, and it gives the NCAA something to put their teeth into because they can't put their teeth into kids anymore with the NIL deals.
And as Bill Belichick would say, and thanks for the phone call, Sully, one of my favorite people of all time. Sully's like one of the nicest dudes. As Bill Belichick would say, stats are for losers. So look at that. Sully going after Samter. You take Maggie and Perloff out of the mix, and now Sully can't stand Samter after saying something nice about you.
I mean, listen, I rub people the wrong way. I need to have buffers around me to kind of keep the negativity out.
Yeah, but I like people that rub people the wrong way. You know, I always like people that aren't afraid to be a little polarizing and a little bit of a, what's the word, antagonist. Hey,
a pot stirrer.
You're a provocateur.
Yes, there you go.
You
and
definitely
it's not intentional.
Yeah.
I think it's just my nature. I just like to always see the other side of things.
Yeah.
So you say X, and even if I 10 days ago said X, I now say Y.
Yeah, Samter, Skip Bayless. No one would ever confuse those two people.
But it's not even intentional. I'm not trying to be a troll. I just kind of am.
All right, we'll take a break here on Zach Gelb Show, CBS Sports Radio. We will do Take 5 coming up in 20 minutes from now. When we return, though, I want to continue on this Harbaugh conversation because now Harbaugh's at a crossroads. Do you leave Michigan or do you stick it to the NCAA and say, I'm not going anywhere? What should Jim Harbaugh do? We'll discuss that next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
Chris calling in Florida next up on CBS Sports Radio. Chris, what's happening?
Zach, what's happening? I love your show tremendously. It is the best national show around. I love my local shows, but you are the best.
Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
That is the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. A lot of food in the office today. Samter, what were you eating before the show? I saw like some mac and cheese on your plate. It looked like it was like Thanksgiving.
Of the 20 things on my plate, you noticed the mac and cheese. There was shrimp skewers. There was ribs.
Shrimp skewers?
Yeah, there was salmon. There were like crispy chicken wings. There was a whole bunch of stuff. Collard greens were on there, but you may not have seen that part because I ate those pretty quick. And you focus on the mac and cheese. That was a heck of a meal. Plus a banana pudding at the end.
Wow. So I did not dabble into any of that stuff. Today I had for lunch I had chicken noodle soup. And then tonight for dinner I'm going to have a chicken salad as well. Salad with chopped grilled chicken. So that's what I'm having. But I did have a little sweet treat. As someone brought in cookies today. They had a double chocolate chip cookie. Man, my mouth is watering after devouring that double chocolate chip cookie. Stu, what did you eat today?
There was some Taco Bell in the office.
Really?
Yes. I think there was still
Yo
some
quiero
there.
Taco Bell?
Yeah, so I had a little bit of that.
Gotcha.
Picked on that.
Now, what's wrong with you? You were sick.
I was.
Just congested?
Yeah, I had a very bad head cold.
Okay. Because usually when you're sick, I don't think Taco Bell is the
Yeah.
best thing for you.
It was kind of like a rebound meal.
Yeah.
Get back to normal type of thing.
Sometimes I always question the parenting I received when I was a kid. When I was sick once, my mom thought it was a good idea to give me hot and sour soup, and we were at a Chinese restaurant. And then on the way home, the hot and sour soup, I guess, did not agree with me when I was sick, and it ended up all in the front seat. If you know what transpired there. And no, I was not Sean Marash. It was not an oopsie. That was just a young Zach Gelb projectile vomiting. Anyway, getting back to this Michigan story before we do Take 5 Wednesday coming up in about 10 minutes from now. I'll give you my top 5 teams in college football and the NFL. I'm just going to ask a very simple question. If you were Jim Harbaugh, and Jim Harbaugh is a very strange guy. I think people expect to travel a certain road, and then for whatever reason, people love to abandon the GPS and not follow directions and go, oh no, I know the shortcut. I know my way. And sometimes a shortcut is actually a shortcut. Other times people tell you, oh, there's a shortcut, and it's just, hey, I know how long it takes to get from point A to point B, and we're tacking on an extra 30 minutes, but that person lives and dies by the shortcut being a shortcut even though it's a long cut. So when it comes to Jim Harbaugh, right now he's at a crossroads where he knows bare minimum he's going to get hit with another game or two from the recruiting violation. Now there's going to be some certain suspension from the sign stealing. I don't know how severe this is going to be. I think a lot of fans are making this to be a severe infraction. The NCAA is going to do something, but I don't know if it's going to be a fine, if it's going to be taking away scholarships, an extra few games added on to the suspension, whatever it is. And we got to see how many years this is going to take for the NCAA, which moves like snails and they move so slow to begin with, to actually give a punitive action to Jim Harbaugh and to Michigan. So let's just throw it out there this way. Jim Harbaugh, should he go back to the NFL, or should he say, oh, people are now wondering if I could win in the NCAA without this sign stealing scheme that's going on? So everyone expects me to leave. Now I'm going to do the opposite, and I'm going to stay loyal to Michigan, and I'm going to come back to Michigan. Because there were some reports a few weeks ago, and I don't want to say they were from credible sources, but there were some reports out there that Jim Harbaugh was going to get a long-term extension done with Michigan sooner rather than later. Now, I've always been operating under the belief that Jim Harbaugh was going to depart for the NFL after this year, because you look at the last 2 seasons, he clearly wanted that Vikings job. The Vikings didn't give him that job, but he sat through a 10, 11, 12-hour interview process. And last year, he was imploring for an NFL job, and no one really seemed to take him up on his beg and his begging attempt to get that NFL job. So I really do believe he's going to go back to the NFL. But now, with people calling his integrity into question and people saying, oh, he's definitely going to leave, I do wonder, because usually Harbaugh, I feel like he's a guy you tell him what to do, and he does the opposite. So I'm really conflicted here now, where for weeks and for months, I thought it was a lock that Harbaugh was going to go back to the NFL. Now I don't know how he's going to take this personally, because a lot of people could kind of look at it what Pete Carroll did. There's going to be sanctions. I've already won. I know Pete Carroll won national championships, and Jim Harbaugh just won Big Ten championships, and maybe he wins a national championship this year. But Pete Carroll bolted to the NFL because he knew he was going to get punished and things were going to catch up to him at USC. So that's a fascinating decision. And sometimes talk show hosts are afraid to say, I don't know. Now, I don't know what Jim Harbaugh is going to do. I still lean towards the side that he's going to go back to the NFL because a team like the Commanders should come calling this offseason. The Chargers should come calling. Maybe the Buffalo Bills, the Chicago Bears, where he played for, should come calling. But if they don't come calling or they don't offer him a job like the last 2 off seasons, you kind of have no choice but to stay in the NFL. But let's just say he gets offered an NFL job. Does he take it or does he stay at Michigan? Stu, if you were Harbaugh right now, and you got to remember, this is his school. This is his alma mater. But you also may have that itch of going back to the NFL where in 4 years you went to 3 NFC title games and then you also went to a Super Bowl, but you didn't win that Super Bowl. Now you've turned around Michigan. You've got Michigan to beat Ohio State twice in some controversy, and we still don't know the details of that controversy. And you've been to the college football playoff twice, but you haven't won a college football playoff game yet. And if you don't win it this year, you may never win it because they're expanding to 12 teams after this season. You may have some sanctions, and it's a loaded team. How do you think Harbaugh will internalize it in this offseason? Will he just run to the NFL, or will he say, you know what, bleep the NCAA? I'll take my penalty, and then I'll just shove it down there, you-know-what, coming up the next few years, and I'll never leave Michigan, and I'll win once again.
Yeah, I think he's always been someone to me that's had the eye on going back to the NFL, and I think this only makes it more likely. And he's going to be 60 in December, so,
That's crazy.
He's not, he's not young. He's not in his 40s anymore. There's going to be a certain point in time where that window of going back to the NFL is going to close, and I think this might be his best and last chance to get a really good job that he wants.
Are you annoyed that your Raiders 2 years ago didn't hire him? Forget that they hired McDaniels, and McDaniels is a bad hire. Even though he was deserving of a second chance to become a head coach, it's been a disaster. But were you annoyed 2 years ago when a lot of people who's the guy that covers a team? Vic Tafer?
Yeah.
We tried to do a mock draft of coaches on CBS Sports Radio. Harbaugh was already off the board. He's like, I can't do this mock draft because I think it's really going to be Harbaugh, and he's unavailable. I'm like, Vic, come on, play the game here. But Vic was like, no, I really think it's going to be Harbaugh. So there was that feeling that Harbaugh was going to go to the Raiders, and I don't even know if he got an interview, honestly, with the Raiders.
I don't think he did. I wanted him or Doug Peterson at the time, and they got neither. They got McDaniels. So that's how that ended up.
Maybe we should make Stu the GM of the Raiders. Both of those hires would have been 10 times better than Josh McDaniels. So you're in the camp of the NFL. Samter, where are you right now? Do you think he automatically goes back to the NFL if offered a job, Jim Harbaugh? Or does he say, I'll be a contrarian, bleep the NCAA, and I'll show them who's boss?
I thought after Berger that wasn't necessarily going to push him. This might, because I do think that this could come with some serious violations and punishments.
Yeah.
So I think that this might, kind of like with Pete Carroll, like you said, this might push him over the edge. But part of it is, everywhere that he's been, he kind of left with almost a bad taste in their mouth, right?
Yeah.
Like Stanford.
Issues with Richard Sherman.
Then he went to San Francisco, and then he had issues with Trent Baalke. Then he goes to Michigan. And if he leaves again and leaves the program kind of decimated because of violations or whatever else, and he just bolts and goes to the NFL, there's going to start be this narrative around Jim Harbaugh. Not only that he leaves teams worse off than he had them, but also now there's going to be questions about how he's winning and was he cheating or was he getting unfair advantages. I almost feel like if this is proven true, it would be better for his legacy, for his narrative, to stay at Michigan, prove that he can do it there, and then hop to the NFL.
So I don't think you're wrong, but there will be an NFL team that eventually comes calling, because whether you like the way that he went about it or not, and we don't know if this stuff happened in the NFL, the facts are the guy's been to 3 NFC title games and a Super Bowl. So some team will say, all right, I'm willing to give that guy a second chance rather than an unknown, or seeing some other bozos that failed in the NFL and still got a second chance. And even if Michigan says we want to move on, or he doesn't stay at Michigan in a few years, he's back in the college coaching game, we've seen coaches do allegedly a lot worse and still be given second and third chances. Harbaugh, everywhere he goes, he wins in some capacity. Doesn't win a championship in terms of a Super Bowl or a national championship, but he knows how to win division titles. He knows how to win the conference. And that's why there will always be a job for Jim Harbaugh. I still lean that he goes to the NFL, but I think it's closer now because I could see him saying, I'm a Michigan man, and I'm just going to fight the NCAA. And I still don't know what the sanctions are going to be, because in the moment right now, I do believe this is a bigger deal than what it actually is. All righty, we'll come on back on the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. We'll do a little Take 5 Wednesday. I'll give you my top 5 teams in the NFL and college football. But first up, with the latest CBS Sports Radio update, here he is, the Act Man, Rich Ackerman.
CBS Sports Radio. Sports Flash.
Well, the 49ers looked like they were ready for the Super Bowl until the last 2 weeks, and now they'll likely have to go without their quarterback, with Brock Purdy in concussion protocol after reportedly experiencing symptoms while heading back from Minnesota on Monday night. Tyreek Hill missed practice today for the Dolphins due to a hip injury. Raheem Mostert sat out as well. Also, as far as rookie quarterbacks go, another is primed to make his NFL debut this week, with the Titans reportedly preparing to start Will Levis with Ryan Tannehill out with an ankle injury. Meanwhile, Anthony Richardson is done for the season after shoulder surgery. And speaking of injured shoulders, DeShaun Watson did not practice today because of his ailing right shoulder. After 2 games on opening night, there are 12 on the NBA schedule tonight. And first up, the Celtics and Knicks in New York. And former Celtics coach Ime Udoka back in the league with the Rockets, who will take on the Magic in Orlando. Victor Wembanyama makes his NBA debut when the Spurs take on the Mavericks. And also today, the Mets reportedly interviewing Brewers manager Craig Counsell for their vacancy. I'm Rich Ackerman.
Jim Rome is on CBS Sports Radio. Make it a must-listen to part of your day. It all starts at high noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Hey, this is Howie. And this is Nick. We're the Backstreet Boys. And you're listening to the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. And guess what? Zach is back. All right.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
All righty, we continue on the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. It's time to answer Ask the Pros question of the day, brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Andrew in San Antonio says, Zach, what are your expectations for Victor Wembanyama this season as he makes his NBA debut tonight? You could submit a question by tweeting at CBS Sports Radio or at Zach Gelb, ZACHGELB, using the hashtag #AskThePros. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. I think my expectations for Victor Wembanyama, this is not like a earth-shattering answer and a crazy answer. It's the win Rookie of the Year. And have the Spurs, right, competing for a playoff spot. And now with the play-in tournament to get into the postseason, I don't think those are crazy expectations year one. But I do expect him to be the Rookie of the Year this year. And then anything after that is an added bonus. Now, what was the bet? We'll do a little cross-show promotion here because I love Maggie and Perloff in the mornings on CBS Sports Radio, 6 to 10 a.m. Eastern. And I'll be a company guy here on many of the same CBS Sports Radio affiliates, Sirius XM, Channel 158, the free Odyssey app, and also streaming on YouTube. What is the bet that Maggie and Perloff make bets all the time? And they have to eat crazy things and do ridiculous things, but that's what they do. That's why they are who they are. But what is this bet about driving to San Antonio? And it has to do with Victor Wembanyama, Samter. I must have missed this one.
So Perloff, I think, is the only person on the planet, and Perloff likes to go against the grain,
yes,
which is kind of his thing. He's the only person on the planet who's not a believer in Victor Wembanyama, or at least not as much of a believer as most of us are. So he made a bet. He said there's no chance that Wembanyama is as good as people think he is, and there's a 0% chance, or maybe not 0, but there's no chance that he's going to win Rookie of the Year in the NBA this year. He said if he wins Rookie of the Year, he's going to drive down to San Antonio, walk around the Riverwalk and the Alamo, carrying a sign saying, I'm an idiot. I thought Wembanyama wasn't going to win Rookie of the Year.
Can I actually get in on this? In terms,
you're gonna like road trip with him down to San Antonio?
No, I'm being serious. So I have one of my good friends. His father lives in San Antonio, runs a restaurant down there, has season ticket for the Spurs. So can we if I just want to go to the game and I'll maybe road trip with Perloff down there, but then I'll fly back because I don't need to go through the entire punishment with him. This is not my words; these are his words. But can we kind of make a proposition to them? If Perloff loses, we get to do this during the basketball season next year, so I at least could go to a San Antonio Spurs game. Because my buddy's dad said, come on down anytime you want. He has courtside seats for the Spurs game. I would like to see Victor Wembanyama play in San Antonio. So maybe we throw that to the Maggie and Perloff show.
Well, the only issue, though, is, this would have to be in 2 years because the bet is about him winning Rookie of the Year, which we all
may be fired by then.
Yeah, until after the season's over. So you're not going to, if you want to go down there to watch him play, you're probably going to have to wait a couple years.
So who is he going towards? Like Scoot Henderson? Chet Holmgren, I guess, is up for Rookie of the Year because he didn't play last year.
So early on, he was really big into Brandon Miller. I had to convince him that Scoot Henderson was the real deal. And I think then he kind of got into the Scoot Henderson bandwagon
with Portland.
Yes,
and wouldn't his best play be Chet though?
He's slowly realizing how bad the bet was because Wembanyama is just ridiculous.
So if somehow Victor Wembanyama, let's say, gets hurt, which would suck, and he doesn't win Rookie of the Year, what does Maggie have to do?
Nothing.
Wait, so this is just a one-sided bet?
Yeah, this is a one-sided thing.
I love Maggie and Perloff, but this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. You got to make a bet. So this is just Perloff's an idiot if Victor Wembanyama wins Rookie of the Year, and he just has to drive down to San Antonio and basically just embrace that he's an idiot. Well, but if he doesn't win Rookie of the Year, Maggie just sits there and nothing happens? I feel like Maggie always wins these bets, and Perloff never wins these bets.
You should feel the same way because you made a bet with Perloff that he couldn't have 4 Philly cheesesteaks in another 30 minutes. And there was no negative for you. You didn't have to do anything if he did it. It was just a challenge whether or not Perloff could do it. Perloff loves taking on these challenges, and he doesn't mind doing it alone. Yeah. Maggie may or may not drive down with him, but listen, I feel it'll be a fun road trip. We get an RV, and the whole show, we go down, me, you, and Stu, and Maggie and Perloff and their producers, and we all go down together, and we have a big, fun time in San Antonio. I'm down. Let's do it.
Hey, Spike, could we get this expensed? Oh, is that a no? Oh, no, I don't know if we're necessarily going to be going.
Big time, you're not going to pay for the whole thing?
Come on. Maggie and Perloff with that money that they're now making in Morning Drive? They could find a way to go on their couch and find a way to pull out a few $100 bills and get the whole trip paid for. All righty, let's get to a little Take 5 Wednesday on the Zach Gelb Show quickly.
As the dust settles from last week's games, it's time to look at which teams are rising and which are falling.
And there's an interception.
Zach ranks his top 5 NFL and college football teams on this week's edition of Take 5, only on the Zach Gelb Show.
Welcome to the top 5, the Ohio State Buckeyes. They beat Penn State. I still don't believe in Ohio State this season. I thought Notre Dame should have defeated Ohio State, but they were clearly the better team up against Penn State. So Ohio State asserts themselves into the top 5. I still have Washington at 4 because of that win up against Oregon, even though that was an underwhelming performance up against Arizona State, but that happens. Florida State is in at 3. They continue to compile impressive performances, even if they start having to work from behind with the hole that they dig themselves in, but they beat the side of LSU in the second half to open up the season, then came from behind against Clemson, and then came from behind against Duke and still beat them by 18. Georgia's still in at 2 because of the Brock Bowers injury, even though they haven't lost the game yet. And at number 1 are the Michigan Wolverines, who really get their season started coming up on November 11th when they play Penn State, and then shortly after that, the Ohio State. So quickly, Ohio State 5, Washington 4, Florida State 3, Georgia 2, and Michigan 1. Samter, speak now, forever hold your peace.
How can you leave out Nick Saban and Bama?
Because Tennessee's their best win of the season. Now, it was impressive. I give them credit for finding a way when it looked like their season was over, down 20-7, playing their best quarter of the season, but they did lose to Texas, and Texas only has 1 loss, so I can't put Bama in the top 5 if I don't put Texas in the top 5.
Well, speaking of Texas, Texas, Oklahoma's still undefeated. They beat Texas, who also beat Alabama, so how is Oklahoma not in the mix?
So Oklahoma's definitely under consideration. I look at that Ohio State win, against Penn State, and I valued it. And there was one spot there. I was teetering back and forth between Oklahoma and Ohio State. And I said to myself, if Oklahoma plays Ohio State, I just have to give the slight edge to the Buckeyes. Anyone else?
And then I guess the Texas Longhorns, I know we just kind of talked about them. They had that loss, and Quinn Ewers is hurt.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, if they can continue doing this and Quinn Ewers comes back, I mean, they certainly deserve an opportunity.
Yeah, they do, and we'll see if they win the rematch of that Big 12 game between Oklahoma, if that's the Big 12 championship game. And also, I know they won Oklahoma against UCF, but I didn't love their performance in that 31-29 win, especially coming off a bye. All right, real quickly, rapid fire in the NFL. This was tough. 5, the Detroit Lions, even though they just got obliterated by the Baltimore Ravens. 4, the 49ers, even after losing back-to-back weeks. The Ravens have moved up into the 3rd spot. I put the Philadelphia Eagles in at 2, and at 1, I know people say the Chiefs are vulnerable, but they only have 1 loss, and that was the Detroit Lions without Travis Kelce and also Chris Jones. So those are my 5 in the NFL. Chiefs, Eagles, Ravens, 49ers, Lions, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Real quickly.
I'm surprised that you left out the Jaguars because you love Trevor Lawrence.
I do, but I had to put the Lions in front of them because the Lions beat the Chiefs. The Jaguars did not beat the Chiefs. So that's why I went with the Lions on the slight edge.
And obviously, Tua and the Dolphins, that offense still looks great, even though they had a few hiccups.
So the Dolphins are a team that they're going to win the AFC East. They're going to be in the playoffs. No one's going to want to face them because of their offense. But in their 2 biggest games, they got blown out against the Bills, and they didn't look all that great up against the Philadelphia Eagles. All righty, great show today. Big thanks to Moist Mike for producing the extravaganza. Stu loves that. And also welcome back Stuart Kovacs. Big thank you to Peter Feigin, the president of the Bucs, for stopping by. Jordan Travis, the quarterback at Florida State. Former big league slugger Mo Vaughn, and each and every one of you for participating with the Zach Gelb Show right here on CBS Sports Radio. We'll be back tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. We out. Bye-bye.